Oh, this time.
And that's going to be on air. Hello, everybody.
Use the intro music, bro.
Welcome to Podcast 84, Harsh Realities versus Delusions of Grandeur. How's everybody doing?
Doing
I
well.
am doing great. Ow!
I've been better.
I'm in my Laverne and Shirley mode today.
I just want to be like Charles.
You do know Charles lies to us a lot.
I do?
About his happiness. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, he consistently
Nobody's that happy.
underrates it.
No, I mean I have my. No, I don't lie. I don't lie about my happiness.
I know you don't. I know you don't. I'm just fucking around.
It's all a farce.
Yeah, Charles is way happier than he lets on.
But,
He may be clinically insane.
You know what? My coworkers do think something is wrong with me. Because it could be something. No, seriously. There's like because other days like Charles, like it was just something that came up, and I was just like, well, at least it's not this. It was I forgot what it was, but I said, well, look on the bright side. At least it's not this. And he's like, you know what, Charles, you are seriously on something. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is, but I mean, like, dude. I don't know
it's not that ganja.
I said, dude, you're seriously on something. You're too freaking happy. Like it's Monday and you're bouncing off the walls. What did you do? I said, I didn't do anything. I just said, it's just Monday. I'm happy to be living. I have a pulse. These things, these things are the stuff I'm concerned about. Everything else is a bonus. Everything else is a bonus. So
you know what? You got a beautiful wife, a beautiful daughter. You've got a job that you like doing.
Yeah.
You have friends. You're on a cool podcast.
Yes.
I'm not talking about us. We are definitely friends in low places, but I'm sure he has other peeps. But yeah, man. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
You just made me laugh for the first time, the hardest I've laughed in a bit, man. So
I'm glad
I appreciate that, my friend.
No problem. I'm here for you, my brother. I am here for you.
You are.
And the audience.
You know what? Now I'm gonna be fucking bothering him all the time on Signal. Like, dude, I need to talk.
I need a fix.
Hop on, please. I need a fix. Make me laugh.
I need Signal friends. I do need Signal friends.
Charles,
are we not friends on Signal? We are, aren't we?
On Signal, but nobody talks to me on Signal. But that's because we all talk on everything else. But yeah,
literally anything and everything else.
And plus, we have chat hours.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I'm trying to bring
that was so great.
Chat room hours in Twitter. I slipped up. I had an amp moment at what was it, 8:45? And somebody on the cast just said, Charles blew up my phone.
Oh yeah, I read that.
Yes, and to clarify,
is too early.
That's 8:45 a.m.
A.m. Yeah,
Eastern.
Dude, I'm up at 5 a.m.
Yeah, I had
8:45 is late for me.
And you asked Charles what he's on?
5 a.m.
Yeah.
I'm up at 5 a.m., but that's a different issue.
Oh my God!
You're still up at 5 a.m.
I'm still up at 5 a.m. It's not that I haven't gone to sleep and then I wake up. It's just I'm still up.
No, we all know about that bladder issue.
But
Yeah.
Okay.
But bro, you almost made me spit up all over my computer.
Oh shit!
Okay. Let's
But
do upcoming cons. I'm just going to announce 3.
yes,
I'm
let's
going
talk about it.
B-side St. Louis this Saturday. Not recording. I'm just hanging out at the Lockpick Village probably most of the time.
Okay.
GurCon, which is in Grand Rapids on September 6th and 7th. And of course, DerbyCon, October 5th through the 7th. And I got a bunch of new laptops prepared. Got new equipment, so this should be good.
You know what me and Israel are going to do? We are going to create a conference here in Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay.
Okay.
The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city. So the Rock and Roll Con, whatever.
Hack and roll.
I don't know what to call it, but it needs to be made.
Rock'em sock'em.
Something. We'll figure out a name, and all y'all are welcome to help us put whatever it is together, because I have no idea how to start a conference, but
And it needs to have an official real mosh pit.
and if Grand Rapids gets a goddamn conference, Cleveland better have a conference.
It used to. Well, it still does have a
Is
Cleveland
it
B-side.
Yeah, it's got
We have
B-sides.
B-side.
What is like? How is B-sides Cleveland? Is it like okay, or is it?
I like it.
It's pretty good. I saw Adrian there this last go around, and I tried to go up to him like 4 or 5 times, but the dude was like busy rushing around like a little busy beaver. And I didn't want to interrupt. I know he was working-ish. I didn't, and I was trying to hit him up because they've got it's held at a pretty cool bar, or bar, real near the grog shop. And I figured, man, maybe afterwards I'll hit him up, and then I couldn't find him afterwards.
Well, how many people are there if it's at a bar? Because I kind of envisioned it as being like 200 or so.
Yeah, 200 to 300 people, I would guess.
Okay.
And they sell out pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Rocky really likes that bar. He used to perform punk rock music there.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's what the grog shop was like. We used to go up there and watch punk rock music and just have all kinds of live music. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, a nice conference that is in Northeast Ohio. I know why they planned DerbyCon in Kentucky, because it was a central place for people to gather. I get it.
There was not a con already happening at the time down there up there in Cleveland.
Oh yeah, right. But it's not anymore.
Correct. They last year was, I want to say, what is it, 2015, 2014?
Yeah.
I wonder why they
It
cut
was
it off.
2014.
They kept having declining of ticket sales, and it was a steep decline. Like the first few years, up, then down, then massive down, then done, or something like that. It was. You have to have a graph, a froggy. When the guys,
I might be able to comment a little bit about why that was. I don't want to do it live, but
okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was an issue there, but hey, man, I am open to starting a con here.
Cool. Well, one of the things my fear of not a con is it wasn't security focused enough, and maybe it's a little bit too much maker stuff. Then again, other people have maker space cons. I don't know. Maybe they try to do too many things. They also try to do some kind of demo scene thing.
Yeah. That's where my thoughts were heading.
I think too, though, some of the maker stuff can be worked into security-related cons, but I'd say no more than like 5 or 10%.
Look at there's right, and it needs to be security focused. There are at least 3 major security companies in this area that are nationwide.
Oh yeah.
and they've got a lot of security employees, and we've got, I don't know, one of the top cities for headquarters in the country, and they've got a lot of security employees. So I just thought it would make sense. Like, I don't know how to put together a con. I know Adrian has helped before. I don't know if he'd be down again, but I'm certainly up.
But check out the only con talks that ShmooCon puts on every year, where they talk about the logistics of the con and the finance.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea.
I think the dogs agree too.
Yeah, they do. Dogs are all about that.
They say,
And I don't know if Israel, if you've been up for like our ISA
I haven't.
meeting.
I've only been
I've
up
been
there
down
for,
to Columbus.
game.
Okay, so I came down to Columbus for the ISSA convention that they have once a year down there. We have one up here as well, and it is night and day. What is done in Columbus is a manager con, I would say.
Yes. Yep.
And it's less technical, so I haven't went in a long while. The one up here was very strange.
Yeah.
Like it was sort of manager con and then highly award driven. Like they would hand out awards for stuff that didn't make any sense.
Really? Yeah, they've never done that down here.
Obviously, yeah. It just wasn't. The people managing it were different, and the folks down in Columbus did it right for a manager con.
Yeah. And I know the people who have been doing it here in Columbus for years, and they try to make it appealing to a broader range and not just, the straight hacker focus. So,
yeah. No, yeah, I know the guys as well. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Okay. Do we want to move on to breach report?
I was just about to say that.
Let's breach it up.
Let's move.
Breach it up. Breach it up. Breach it up.
Hear my son. I'm going to breach it up.
All right. Breach it up.
I'm preaching about breaching.
There you go.
Preaching about breaching.
I'm sorry. I had the Migos on my mind. Pipe it up. Pipe it up. Pipe it up. Pipe it up.
And I want to apologize in advance. I didn't get a chance to go through the show notes like I wanted to. I'm going to make it a habit moving forward to make sure I read and study through them so that I can have some sort of a way to discuss this without winging it. We have a lot of technical know-how on this show. And sometimes news presents itself on the show, and we talk about it from a historical standpoint oftentimes, or sometimes we've heard about it, shit like that. But I know I need to do a better job of making sure that that I'm commenting on the story that's relevant and have something to add.
I think we're all guilty.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
my stuff,
I didn't get my stuff added on to the show notes until today, so.
I'm not pointing any fingers. It's something I know and I'm aware of for myself. So if you guys
I know you're pointing.
I'm jumping in the boat with you, brother. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, I appreciate that, guys. Not leaving me hang out there.
No, it's just you, Ricky.
Of course it is.
It's just Ricky. It's just Ricky and then the insane guy next to him.
Yeah, you guys like my Alroy symbol?
Heck yeah.
Or should I go back to my face?
No.
I don't know.
No, not the face. No.
You guys don't like my face?
No. I just like the symbol.
Jeez, that was
you hate my face.
All right. Let's move. First breach.
Move forward. The breach.
First breach. Israel, take it away.
Breach. Okay, first up we have T-Mobile. I was actually looking because I know I saw stats somewhere on the total amount of people, but I think it was 23,000. I mean 23 million if I remember right. But T-Mobile breach. The breach of name, billing, code, phone number, email address, account number, and type. So the account type meant whether it was a prepaid or postpaid, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was fun because a lot of people didn't necessarily find out about it. The people whose data was compromised were sent a text message, and that was how they relayed the information out. So the first link that I have on the show notes there, and my son is obviously very happy tonight. The first link that I have on the show notes is the notice that they sent to the customers, and I think Cappy has that up and is showing some of that.
I've got that open. Basically gives the T-Mobile customer instructions on what to do if they got this notice. This was the notice of saying, hey, your information was caught up in this breach, and it includes your name, billing, zip code, phone number, email address, account number, and account type, prepaid, postpaid, as Israel mentioned. And then it goes around and I had to I hate websites that do these notices with I have to go and find more stuff instead of just showing me. So this happened the 20th of August. So this was 9 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was the notice, and then Israel also, and I saw this on Twitter before. So I'm glad you put this up. If you want to take this away, Israel,
I'll go ahead and speak on it real quick. Yep. So they didn't include anything in regard to passwords, hash passwords, nothing, encrypted passwords. But then a motherboard has spoken with a T-Mobile spokesperson who said that encrypted passwords were included in the data that was hacked. So T-Mobile didn't say anything about that in the original, and we now have a spokesperson who said that to motherboard. So it could be that hash passes are out there somewhere. And honestly, I have not seen this dump anywhere in any of the groups that I'm in.
Yeah.
So
I can. I don't feel comfortable sharing this stuff around, but I do have access to it.
Yeah.
It's good for research purposes.
Agreed.
But legitimately, it is out there.
Okay. But the dump includes hash passes.
Hash passes, yeah.
Okay. Cool. So we can confirm. Awesome.
Yeah, and the article also, the guy who wrote, or the nice lady who wrote this also said that she went to a couple of researchers saying that it was using MD5. Two different researchers shared the above mentioned hash, which apparently may be an encoded string hash, which is with the notoriously weak algorithm called MD5.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So
and the tough part about it is they didn't even hash. I mean, if you're going to use MD5, you got a problem right there. But if you're not going to solve, you've got even bigger problems. And
so
for
straight
a company of this size, to not use a proper algorithm and not salt their passwords, they need a significant help in their app security department.
Yeah, it's about time they get smacked over the head, which they probably will over this one.
Yeah.
Well, isn't T-Mobile SOC like only 18 months old?
The SOC?
Yeah.
I don't know. Could be.
Because I mean, I know that they were spending.
The SOC has nothing to do with it.
Well,
the SOC has a very little role in app security. Detecting breaches, obviously, yes.
Yeah, I mean, they were the ones who
maybe not
detected
to the
it,
speed yet.
but like I said, they have a relatively young SOC.
Yeah.
So
I don't know that.
But too, with that being the case, if they did have a young sock, I mean, well, too, they found it August 20th. Did it say anywhere how long they had been within the systems?
Yeah.
Because
not in the notice.
Okay. Yeah, because I haven't seen that anywhere.
Yeah.
Perhaps this would have been detected sooner had their sock been along a little further. But again, people, do not take your app security for granted. The SDLC process, validating code, doing code reviews, that sort of thing. Don't take it for granted, because that catches so many companies off guard.
Yeah, that has to be an instrumental within the company.
Absolutely.
Yep. Any developer that's been in the industry 10, 15 years will tell you the same thing. Having people reviewing code is a huge deal. Not just for bugs, but also for security reasons.
Yeah, especially, and Cappy's definitely one. He's been in it since he was like 3 years old. And now that he's 18, I mean, he's got that 15 years under his belt.
What? You're making it really hard for me not to swear on stream. I'm trying to figure out how to do
Yeah. Hey, Darren, can you go on mute?
That's not me.
Darren.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry.
No. I was just messing around with you. That's funny. I'm sorry, Darren. I totally called out the wrong person on a joke.
Yeah, you did, because Caprico's young enough to be my kid, so you need to, be careful who you call out.
Caprico, quit goddamn crying.
That's my son.
Yeah, Israel,
and I'm muting.
Israel, I
know
think
it is Israel,
house.
but you're
I'm at Israel's house. I'm off camera.
You are a co-Ohioan, so I would never blame anything on you.
That's right. Go Ohio.
Israel.
Oh wait.
Ohio.
I don't know.
Are you using your headphone mic or are you using your computer mic?
I'm using headphone, but
Right,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
It happens.
It does.
With the, I don't know if you're wrapped up with the T-Mobile breach notice, but we do have another one that's listed below her, but perhaps it should be included within the breach report.
No, we have that in the breach report.
The Fiserv exposing customer data at hundreds of banks.
Yeah, and I did see that, but I didn't throw it up there since somebody else added it. But yeah, we can throw that up there.
Yeah, I did at the time where this stuff wasn't in there. Feel free to go through it, obviously.
Good deal. Will do here momentarily.
You screwed up my organization, man. That's fine. I'll move stuff. All right.
Did what?
No, I just have all of what I do for each show is I have them all up in order, like all of the articles in order.
Yeah.
So you have that.
Don't let me mess it up.
No, it's cool.
I'm
I just have to move
5 hours of no sleep.
Damn it! I tell you what, you're right. It is so hard to move these tabs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like you just click on one, drag it somewhere.
It was 5 a.m, and I'm trying to put stuff in there, and Cap is on the side, and he's like, "Okay, let me do this shift tab," and I've got a Mac, and I'm like, "That's not working." He goes, "I'll take care of it."
Like 5 a.m. Just I can do Word and Google Docs on autopilot formatting.
We're screwing around with formatting at 5 a.m. It's so funny. But I appreciate that, and it makes me feel old.
Well, compared to Cap, he just got out of diapers. So yeah, you're definitely old compared to him.
Screw you! I just graduated college.
What up, Doogie Howser?
I got Word down, right? I mean, Word I can format all day, although I don't like to. But Google Docs is something I've not completely got a handle on yet. So I appreciate Cap and his expertise in helping us format the show notes.
There you
2
go.
words.
So,
How to
dude,
know how to do it. Group projects.
as far as I'm concerned, the ones I put in there, you own them and put them anywhere you want to put them.
Oh, Cap will tell you where you can put them.
Hey, your hair.
Okay.
Me, I'll go to Minnesota and I'll put a beating on his butt.
I don't doubt that. Next.
Like a Viking.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have Sprint. So a security researcher essentially guessed username password of a user account and gained access into their internal staff portal. Whoops.
Is this
Derp.
so? Again, one of the problems I have with this is this stuff isn't new. I mean, this news story is new.
Yep.
But
like how they're getting
problems keep reoccurring. We have
Yes.
companies that continue to use low-grade algorithms to protect their passwords, and pretty much everything we talk about in the breach report, it's happened to other companies. And
oh yeah, it's hardly ever first stuff.
You're supposed to do what we did was, whenever a breach would occur, we would do lessons learned and sort of a post-mortem. You can't really do a post-mortem unless you were involved in the incident.
Yeah.
But you can go through the research and discover, well, what did they do wrong?
Yeah.
And make corrections to your company.
And on the flip side, what did they do right? And if you're not doing some of those things that they did right, what can you do to get there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know, larger, and you've got to give some space to large organizations because they move slower. My last company, we had 8 development departments, over 100 developers.
Mm-hmm.
So getting them to move all in balance with a variety of apps, we're talking mobile apps, APIs, just a ton of different web applications and applications in general. And you can't get them all to move at once. But you can start working stories into the SDLC, which is important. But I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. It's just for years, we see the same issues popping up over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Take it away.
I know a lot of people who do red team work that say the exact same thing consistently. You know,
yeah,
I did an assessment against Company X last year, and this year, I mean, they fixed 1 or 2 of the things, but 90% of the things were still there and still an issue.
You know why? So again, I don't want to sidetrack this, but again, I did a lot of red team work. I know Adrian did a lot of red team work. They will focus on what you find in regulatory scope. So whether it be SOC or PCI or whatever, that's their focus. And that's not always your foot in. Your foot in is generally not in those highly segmented and protected areas. You get a foot in somewhere within the company.
Oh yeah.
And you move about until you get into their protected network.
Yeah, you find that one
generally
system with Eternal Blue available, you know, vulnerability.
If you're super lucky, yeah. Or you get some help desk admin's account, and the help desk admin account has he's got admin access to all the machines.
Yeah,
whether they be on PCI or not.
DA account or an EA. I sure hope nobody has help desk have an EA, but you will see a lot of help desk out there with DA.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Help desk?
Hopefully not, but yes, you will see that. Absolutely.
Yep.
But that's I think why it happens so often is companies put all of their focus on because companies when they do red team assessments or penetration assessments, what have you, they want to focus on a specific scope. It's always scoped out. Is it not, Adrian?
Yeah, not always scoped out the best in the world, but yes.
Yeah, they generally don't bring you in and say, hey, test everything, because they're on a limited budget.
Yeah.
So they want you to focus on a scope. So I think that's potentially why things happen over and over and over again.
Yeah, definitely. I think scoping comes down to a lot of this stuff still being there and still ending up being the same old thing over and over again. Is you won't see companies a lot of the time, at least in my very limited experience. We were going to contract with this certain company, and they were on a very, very low budget, very tight budget, and they wanted us to kind of take a look, and they wanted us to show them, well, what can we do for them, because they had no background in this. They hadn't been assessed in years, which was bad, especially for the nature of the company. So, but when I got to talking with them, and specifying what we could do, they kept looking at each other like, oh, we haven't thought of that. We haven't thought of that. We haven't thought of that. And it was like each segment of their system and their processes just keep scaring them on what was going to be found, and to them, they were like, that's going to cost a lot of money for us to just even fix if you do find, if and when you do find something. So it all comes down to a money game and a scoping game. So this might have been the T-Mobile thing, and also this Sprint thing might be just it was something new that they just rolled out, hadn't really been fully assessed or whatever, wasn't within current policies, blah, blah, blah. Someone slipped up, normal human error. But
dude, because you're so young, I'm going to give you
the benefit of the doubt.
The benefit of the doubt, because you are far too optimistic.
I am.
You really are.
Which is fine.
I mean, because how much does a single Pro Nessus license cost? Like $2,500 or $3,000 or something?
$3 something. I'm gonna look.
So worst case,
if Sprint or T-Mobile, you're not using Nessus. You're going to go with the full security center or IBM's tool or Rapid7's Insight,
yep.
VM. You're going to go with the large scale application. So yeah, you could throw in Nessus, but you get only a certain amount of licensing to scan, a certain amount of assets you can scan.
Right.
Well, there's a lot to that as well. I mean, you've got to, if your company uses some vaulting technology, you've got to integrate that vault so that when you scan systems, you're doing authenticated scans, which is super important for anybody out there. You don't want to just scan systems. You want to make sure they're authenticated. And you can gather passwords for machines and store them inside your vulnerability scanning application. That's fine because they do it securely. But you do want to vault your admin passwords, whether it be CyberArk or what have you. And they do integrate. So when you're scanning an asset, it will check with CyberArk or, again, what have you. Check if that credential exists, and then it securely transfers it over. We'll use that credential to do an authenticated scan, so you get a full view of the system.
As well as make sure that the password is changed once you're done using those credentials.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a really another really good point. I don't know how often. So changing some admin credentials you don't want to do frequently or after use sometimes, especially if they're like service accounts.
Well, that's why.
But you do want to cycle those passwords on use. The goal is that nobody knows what those passwords are, right? That once it's in use, that password is automatically changed. So you're 100% right.
Yeah, that's why I'm a proponent of, using CyberArk, Thycotic, Okta, some of these others, that are out there.
Thycotic was my favorite.
Yeah.
CyberArk was just.
It's a pain to configure. I mean,
I don't know if Adrian allows us to talk
solid
shit about vendor products. I know some podcasts won't let you do that, but
I'm directly connected to. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's currently sponsoring, so.
Yeah.
They probably won't be after this.
CyberArk is a pain in the ass. Thycotic is easy to use and much cheaper. So if you guys are out there looking for a vaulting product, look at CyberArk for sure. See if it meets your company's needs. But definitely check out Okta and Thycotic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
definitely do that.
So yeah, let's circle back.
That's
to
Sprint.
Yeah, let's circle back to Sprint.
But I didn't have much more on Sprint. I mean,
Right.
they allowed.
One quick second, Adrian. The limit on this is 9. Is that right?
I suppose so.
Okay.
We have
What's
10
up?
right now.
Yeah, we had somebody try to hop on, and Illustrious was going to join in. So, all right, cool. He'll try back later.
And this is something I'll bring up maybe next week. If anybody has good solutions to, especially in an AD environment, good, and when I say good, something potentially a product that's on the market for validating user passes prior to them setting that pass. Because like we have Troy Hunt's site. What's that? Have I been pwned?
I've been pwned.
So yeah, you can download the NTLM hashes, like his entire database. But how can we effectively take compare it to any of those hashes that are out there, and make sure.
I don't know if everybody else hears it, but you were cutting in and out for me. I didn't hear the entire.
Oh, sorry
comment.
about that. So, have I been pwned? You can download the entire NTLM hash set that he has of 150 million or 500 million or however many hashes that he has that have been open, clear texted and made available on the internet and the deep or dark web. What's the best way for us to compare AD user passes against those to make sure that our users are not using those passwords?
Do you want to go through that now? Because I can.
I figure
it'll take a bit,
but something for next week.
You break
something
user
for next week,
passwords,
definitely.
and then when you have a customer, you try to log in with that password. Just password to use finding.
We're talking about automation on a large scale.
Yeah,
I think is what he's talking about.
Active Directory, full scale automation. Yeah.
So one of the ways, obviously, is SMB. You check SMB shares. Typically, companies don't disable that. So there is you can use Metasploit to do that. There's a component in there that will allow you to select password list and username list.
And see, I'm not
and
saying
you can check against SMB.
Yeah, I'm not
but there's other
from the red team side. I'm saying from a user perspective, how do we, as security admins, as sysadmins, whoever, make sure that users are not utilizing those passwords and be able to automate that, so whenever they're changing their password, it checks against the list, the hash file, and it's not on that list. Okay, and it's met, there's standard AD stuff, length and difficulty, blah blah blah.
I understand you. Yeah, let's pick that up next week because that will take a little bit of time.
Yeah, it'll take some time and some research, but I think,
I will tell you, not to research, like I can walk you through it, but it'll take a bit of time. I'm sure Adrian can walk you guys through it as well, but you don't have to be on a red team, and I know what you're saying. I get it. But as a security admin, or I don't know what role you serve at your company, but it's part of you should make it part of your responsibility to check as well. Just the red team's not going to catch everything, and a lot of times they're hampered by scope. Again, we get back to the scoping issue. But there are ways that you can protect yourself against those passwords. Dude, like we shut down anybody being able to use stuff like spring 2018 or summer 2018, whether it had an exclamation point or not.
Yeah, and stuff like that. Yeah, that's exactly what I want to discuss. How we can automate that, or and not just one way to automate it. If there's a vendor, but name a couple vendors who do that and do it well. And if there's freebie ways to do it, let's discuss some of those too.
Mm-hmm. Let's do that. That's a really good idea for next week.
Got a couple ideas on how you can just program that, but
and yes, that would be my first suggestion. Would be to do it that way. You want to go with the freebie costs if at all possible.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But moving on.
Yep. Let's move on. So next up we have Atlas Quantum. So unfortunately, all the personal details of all their users, which were 261,000, were disclosed.
Ouch.
Whoops. And they are a cryptocurrency investment platform. So that makes it all the more fun.
Yeah.
260,000 just doesn't seem like a lot anymore.
I know. Used to, that was just a stupid amount of people. And now it's like,
Well, I mean, we're still like in the overarching umbrella that is the Equifax breach.
Yeah.
So like that was millions. like hundreds of millions of people.
Yeah, it's pretty bad, man.
Our industry sucks at doing the job.
And we've seen this before multiple times where we've had other cryptocurrency exchange websites on the breach report because they are so new. A lot of people just try and throw up one as fast as possible and make a crap ton of money off of it, having their own blockchain, blah blah blah, or having their own access to the blockchain and getting fees for transactions using their services and whatever, because it's a lot of money. But then they lack on security. It's kind of the same SDL or software development lifecycle snafu that you deal with when you're in a rush.
So they did say here, at the time of the incident, we took immediate steps to protect the database and passwords, and private keys remained encrypted.
Good.
I mean, yeah, good, but also I kind of feel like they're sidestepping, saying that the private keys may have, even though they're encrypted, they may have got the private keys.
So,
I mean, the private keys remained encrypted.
So the person who reported it, sorry, are you still talking about T-Mobile?
No, well,
Atlas Quantum.
Quantum now.
Oh, never mind then.
Yeah. So, from my view of reading this, I kind of feel like they may have got the encrypted keys, which, there's always a chance. If it can be encrypted, it can potentially be decrypted too. And then they also say we are monitoring the affected accounts and working to have additional protection against fraud, spokesperson said. So I don't know if they fully know like where the intrusion came in and 100% how they got there, and or if they still had footholds in. It's just how I feel about reading this. But that was Atlas Quantum. Got a cool name.
I've got 260K on another article of infected. I'm not sure if this is the same one though. No, this is the same one. Oh no, never mind. Sorry, misread.
Too late to turn around.
261K is really close to 260.
No. It said 260K, and I thought we said 160.
Okay. Next up.
Hey, before we hit this next up, Froggy T. Wright had a point in some of our discussion around using things like Psychotic and CyberArk to change passwords. And I thought it's something that we can address. He asked, why not just use two-factor instead of automatically changing passwords? The risk, he thinks, would be that the password length and security would suffer due to that change. And I think that's something some of us can talk to, but whoever wants to jump in is fine.
Yeah, I can jump in real quick on that. From a user perspective and a physical person perspective, that's not a bad idea. It's a really good idea using two-factor. Don't use SMS because text messages suck and they can be intercepted and all that. But whenever
NIST has ruled them out at this point.
NIST has ruled them out, as of this year, last year. But whenever you're talking large-scale environment, you're also talking service accounts. And service accounts are going to be automated accounts working within applications and websites and this, everything. Like my organization has, in the primary domain, probably 2,000 real users, and we have over 1,000 service accounts. So you're not going to be able to two-factor a service account, because it has to be fully automated. So those service accounts, you definitely want to be able to do a password management, do a vault setup, some time of PAM setup. But for users, it's a pain if they're going to be using a vault every single time they do something. Two-factor would be much easier. But on the administrators, anybody with DA access, with EA access, I would still say that there be a, start to segregate the accounts out by Exchange. So there's an Exchange administrator's account that can access Exchange. That your DAs and your EAs do absolutely nothing but domain controllers. Nothing else. And you have,
they should all be separate, right? You have an ADM account for your administrative use, and you have a regular account for your regular administrative. You're just normal user type stuff.
Yeah. And then,
but it also helps to mention cost associated to doing two-factor,
there's
which
definitely
gets
cost
expensive.
Yeah.
Which is higher than.
But there are some services like Psychotic will do Google authentication for two-factor, and you could run that for free. I mean, not psychotic. There's costs associated with it, but then the two-factor portion of it, just using Google Authenticator, you don't pay a dime for that.
Right. Yep. Absolutely.
But then the other thing I was going to say with
go ahead.
Like the heightened access accounts, the DAs, the EAs, whatever, within CyberArk, Psychotic, all of these, you can do two-factor to authenticate to, CyberArk to obtain the passwords too. And that is something that I definitely recommend.
Absolutely. There are products out there now. And I don't know if you just mentioned this, again, 35 hours of no sleep. But there are products that will allow situational two-factor. So let's say I'm an HR representative and my IDR toolkit learns that I log into these 5 systems every day, and I have done so for the past year. And then all of a sudden, I try to log into this print server or this file server or this whatever.
Yeah.
At that point, the system would challenge you with the two-factor request.
Yeah, and that's I haven't been hands-on with some of that. That is whenever you start getting pricey. But some of that tech, is very cool because it can do location base. I mean, it can go down to if you're outside a subnet that you normally are working within, it's going to challenge you. All kinds of stuff. Some of that tech is very cool.
And I've worked hands-on with it. It can do outside of your normal operating hours. So if you're somebody that works 8 to 5, it's not going to challenge you if you come in at 8:05 or leave at 5:15.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get in at 3 a.m.,
yep,
you can have a challenged user for two-factor code. So we're talking about user accounts here. Again, you mentioned having users go into a vault each and every time they want to log into a system. It's not going to reflect good on you or your department. Again, our job is to integrate with the business and not hamper them, secure them, but we don't want to place
handcuffs on them,
walls and handcuffs in place of them doing their normal jobs. And you mentioned service accounts that you'd want to change automatically. Not all of them, but a lot of them you can. There are passwords that are sitting in web configs that an old application uses that you can use a dichotic to change that password for. So I thought it was a really important question, and while we were on it, I thought it was good to address it.
Yeah.
So
very good question.
Thank you to Froggy T. Wright.
Froggy, coming in with great questions.
Okay, let's see. Next up, Augusta University, where the fish are biting. So we had a phishing attack on Augusta. I didn't look up where Augusta University is. Maybe Florida.
I will Google that.
Yeah, it's kind of fun though. The university discovered the intrusion by an unauthorized third party on September 11th, 2017. One day after the incident began, but only realized data had been breached through a report from outside security investigators on July 31st.
What do you think about this, Jack?
Jack sipping Mai Tais.
Fuck you, Ricky.
Cricket.
I ain't talking to you.
Jack, you there?
I mean, somebody that's worked in places he can't discuss, and when you hear stuff like this, it's got to be interesting. It's something that we at we who work at corporations have to put up with. But
yeah, 417,000 people.
417,000.
Yeah.
That's, again,
That's a lot.
When you step back in, it's a lot when you think about it just from this small perspective that we have at the minute. But when you think of the millions and hundreds of millions of accounts that have been breached in one, that have been released in one breach.
Oh yeah.
It's sort of set things a little clearer, I guess. And the fact that companies don't seem to, they're not negatively impacted by it very much. Their stock isn't. They might take a temporary hit.
And sometimes that doesn't even happen. I mean,
and sometimes that doesn't happen.
Whenever they do quote unquote responsible disclosure, I mean, I've been watching these companies fairly adamantly over the last 6 months, and very few of them actually take any hit in regard to the breach.
You know what? I don't know if somebody set something like this up, but for companies that have publicly disclosed the breach, having some service that tracks their stock prices and upper management change would be awesome.
Yeah.
And if you take that idea, I want $10.
No, I was figuring that.
There you go. The disclaimer's out. Look, the disclaimer is out.
You give Charles $10 too.
Yay!
Yeah, Caprico and Eve are kind of our in-house devs. So,
and you know what I would buy with that $10? A bunch.
You'd buy me a brand new.
Okay, I'm gonna break it down. You know what I would do?
I think you're gonna buy a wig.
No, I don't do wigs. I'm bald and brown and awesome.
I thought you were brown. I mean, bald and beautiful.
He does weaves.
Weaves. He's gonna put a weave into the wig.
I'm sorry, Charles. I shouldn't have said that.
That was
You
straight up
motherfucker.
Look, I just got extensions in my wig.
It's only mean if you don't know Charles.
But you know
I know.
what's crazy? Check this out. Here's what's crazy though. The men who are getting like like they have the bald heads like me, but now they're getting the sewn in wig fronts and all this other stuff because they don't want to be bald. I'm like, oh my god.
Implants, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's really crazy out here. I'm sorry. I love who I am. I can't do it. I can't do it. But no, you know what I would buy? But here's the thing. You know what I'd buy? I'd take my $10. I'd buy me a Raspberry Pi Zero and a Slurpee.
Nerd.
People are talking right now.
Is it? What's that? Is somebody talking?
Charles was talking.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. I, by mistake, played the YouTube video because I was reading comments.
You unmuted YouTube. See?
And I had them both going along at the same time, and I'm like, holy shit, what's happening here?
Hey,
and I was making fun of Charles. I was making fun of Charles Wee just for a minute.
And it went double.
Because I know he loves me.
You did it twice. Because when you said it, you said it again.
I did it because I didn't think you heard me, and I saw your little icon in the YouTube window, and you looked pissed.
I did?
You know what's crazy? You look confused or pissed or something.
I gotta change that icon because that icon that doesn't even reflect anything about me. No, what I was actually really sleepy. That thing that you see me holding in my hand on that icon, that was the Palm Pre. I was deep into hacking the Palm Pre when it first came out.
Holy crap! That's like 15 years old.
I was 3.
Wow.
The Palm Pre came out. Palm Pre came out in 2007.
You probably have a phone at your house that can take a picture.
You know something?
And there's these things called webcams.
Hey, I still have a StarTAC Motorola.
Oh heck yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Does it still have 80% battery? Wait, no, that's Nokia. That's Nokia. My bad.
Well, here's the cool part though. Like, and I did a lot of studying. It still can work to this day. They have a service online for $25. You can get phone service and SMS. To work with your Motorola StarTAC. Because what I'm looking for now is the old school Zach Morris phone from Saved by the Bell, and of course the yellow Hack the Planet pager. Just for you.
Which one did Zach Morris have? Was that a Motorola?
Yeah,
it was Motorola. Yeah.
Okay, I think I have one. Battery is dead as all get out, but I think I have one.
And
if you're willing to part with it, let me know. I could be offline.
No, believe it or not, if you do a little digging, eBay, you can actually get one that will work with SIM cards.
Really?
Because I used one for a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
And I guess you can guess what my Halloween costume was.
It was a Eevee.
Nah, you was Zach Morris.
No, I was a '90s drug dealer.
You know what?
So yourself today.
Then why'd you have a cell phone? You need a beeper on you.
Thank you. You messed up. Now you in jail.
It worked.
All right. Now you're in jail.
I have one more thing about the cell phone thing. I was actually talking to somebody from Verizon, like one of the customer service representatives, and he was saying that they're going to be doing away with like smartphones and stuff like that, just from the standpoint that I guess the radio waves that are transmitted to your phone to the cell towers and stuff. I guess there's CDMA and then GSM. The ones that are like typically used on flip phones are going to be like discontinued or something like that in like a year from now. He was saying. So I don't know if that's a SIM card you have to change or.
Yeah. On mine, on mine, it's GSM. So
okay. It was. But you know something. Has anybody played with OpenBTS?
No.
It's like you know what OpenBTS is, right? It's like the open source cellular infrastructure.
Okay.
And you can pretty much make it work with like GSM phones.
Okay.
You can turn it, like you can install the software, like say on a Linksys router, and you turn that Linksys router into the portable cell tower.
Okay.
Oh, I was actually seeing something about that today. What was it? That it can affect 911 calls.
Well, OpenBTS?
Yeah.
Is that something you really want to do?
Yeah, that they can't necessarily find the source location, whereas they, can with the regular cell network. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not talking about getting away with it.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying that wouldn't be a good idea.
Yeah. I'm seeing.
But too, if you're doing it for research and everything, have at it.
Yeah.
Imagine there's somebody, you're disrupting it, and there's somebody that really needs a goddamn cop or an ambulance, and you're doing something for research. Then this is why I hated the faker that got up on the plane and acted like he was manipulating the plane midair. Before we knew it was bullshit, that was a problem. Like immediately, I'm like, how fucking dare you?
Yeah.
Question: Who's echoing in the back?
I don't know. Is it me?
It's somebody.
It's not me.
I think it was Greg. He's got us on speaker, which is all right. He's
goddamn
Greg. He's fixed it.
You newbie, fix it.
You are a newbie.
Greg, go get the stuff out of the basement.
Okay, I actually had that happen at my first job.
I do that anytime I'm a manager and in management. I do that to every employee the first day.
I was working at a bowling alley, and there's this door in the middle of it. One of them said, "Go to the door in the middle of the back room, and that leads down to a basement." And I go back there, and I'm like, "There's no door." Ah. Like,
Oh. Hey, at least they didn't tell you
back.
it's a pool there.
I go back with my head held, my shoulders held low, just like, screw this.
Nice.
No, you know what's real crazy? You'll never guess what I was watching earlier today.
Xena, the warrior princess.
Nope.
My mama.
Nope. I'm gonna take it even back further. Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Wow.
Oh, dude.
Nice.
Yeah, I watched that show not too long ago. Like I watched an episode of it.
Bro, I literally felt like the 90s. Like I just felt like the 90s was like my mom was just gonna come in at any minute and just give me like soup or let me have some Teddy Grahams. I don't know, man.
So you heard of that show called Supernatural? It's been on like fucking forever.
17 years.
Yeah, like a crazy amount of time. So I started watching it, and don't hate, don't be jealous. But I started watching it, and I watched it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Someone's still echoing, by the way.
Yeah, they are.
And the dude Parker Lewis is a character in the show for one of the seasons, like half of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was watching and I'm like, oh, I got to check out one of those episodes. The Parker Lewis Can't Lose.
Yeah.
And his shirts, remember his shirts and his hair was always like fucking perfect.
Yes, it was. Yeah, I just thought about that today, and I just had that moment. I was like, oh my God. Like, where's my mother? Is she gonna bring in the Teddy Grahams?
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
I'm a big. People on the cast. I'm a big kid.
Where are we at?
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't fucking know.
We're at Fishing Attack on Augusta University. One thing about this, since this is the health section or department or whatever of the facility, those 400,000 individuals that are affected by this, that's information that either is under HIPAA or FERPA, one of the two. And I say FERPA and FERPA
or high tech.
Yeah. What?
High tech.
Yeah. And I say FERPA because at my university, we have a little dental dental clinic on campus where students go for free to get dental work done. But I was not going to go there as it was covered under FERPA, which I was like, it's a little bit more lax. So
I've never heard of FERPA in my life.
Yeah, FERPA is essentially, I can look at it. It's student information.
Protects student records and so forth. But
yeah, it's student records.
I have never found anybody actually sued FERPA. As far as the rights it gives students, like supposedly you're supposed to have the right to be able to request a modification of your record if you disagree with what you put in. They don't have to modify it. You're supposed to put your side in. However, they don't have to do that for anything that's considered a substantive a grade or a substantive decision, which could be anything, or an opinion about you. I tried to work with FERPA. FERPA is basically useless pieces of shit in the government talking about taxpayers' dollars and seats and not doing a damn thing for students.
Yeah.
So is HIPAA. HIPAA's the same way. Is FERPA a government regulatory requirement for
colleges, right?
Yeah. No, just for student information. So that's the entire educational center or spectrum.
That's odd. I haven't heard of it.
Yeah. So FERPA stands.
I've been in the corporate big boy world, so.
Yeah, FERPA stands for Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Essentially, what it means, to sum it up, is for our side is we just have to ensure that data is able to be attained, be able to be read by the students and only students or their parents.
I believe it's restricted only what the parents can see. But you can also clearly lose federal funding if they find you in violation of FERPA. I understand. Right. But no one I've ever heard of has ever had that happen.
Adrian, how different is it, aside from it being for students, how much different is it from the worthlessness that is HIPAA?
I've actually heard of people getting sued over HIPAA, so I'd say it's probably more worthless.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you guys look at the method of attack?
I did. For this one, it's a phishing attack. I don't think I think it was towards higher. I thought I saw it in here somewhere where it was. They said it was higher officials got it at the university.
Yeah. Doesn't matter how.
Yeah.
What's fucked up is when I got into IT security back in 2002, phishing attacks were all the rage. Document macros, that kind of thing. Cell phone, especially contact replication, where they'd email all of your contacts the same type of bug. We didn't call it malware back in those days, but the fact that we haven't found a solution to it as a industry, I don't know if that says more about us as an industry or it says more about the business worker. I'm still trying to figure that one out.
I think the phishing protection with some of the solutions has gotten 100 times better than it used to be. I mean, used to there was no phishing protection. You know, there was spam, but creating phishing.
I mean, Iron Port was in place. Semantic had an email filter. Exchange had its own. There were a number of different ones, not very good.
Yeah, those were for spam. That doesn't necessarily address phishing, though. You know?
No. Well, yes. Doesn't, yeah, exactly. We found an interesting solution that's not really ready for prime time yet. It was called Mimecast. You guys heard of that?
Yeah, they're one of the big two now.
Heard of it, yeah.
What they do is they strip Excel spreadsheets, Word documents of all macros, PDFs of any encoding, and they deliver it in a PDF form. One of the issues with it is it does go to the knowledge worker, and the knowledge worker then decides whether or not that the document is required for them to do their job, because we still use macros to exchange information with other businesses and outside vendors. That's still a thing. I know, right? And so it's still on them to know the difference between what is a legitimate document and not. So they can request that document back from Mimecast. So they can say, I've got the stripped down thing, but I need the real thing because this is legitimate and I do work with this company, whatever.
Now, does Mimecast still send that macro-enabled document to a sandbox and detonate it?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they still, you know, and the problem with, you guys know, I mean, most of you are in IT security, right?
Yeah.
I never know how many people are doing this work and how many are interested parties, but the sandboxing issue is, especially if you work for a large organization, sandboxing can take up to 15 minutes to make a determination on a document. So you can't hold it. The business won't allow it. So you got to let them pass through, and the documents will run through the sandbox. once they've been delivered to the end user, and any further documents that come in, if it's determined that it's malicious or what have you, will be stopped. And then some of the solutions have a way for the administrator then to pull back any and all documents that came from this source, which is a neat solution. So
and some are automated too. Like
some of are automated, yes.
Yeah, like Proofpoint, if they let something through, with Trap, and then find and deem that something was actually malicious, you got the Trap product that can go through into Exchange and pull it back out. Or
if you have Exchange,
I think you can do Exchange 365 and Google Mail.
They don't do Notes, Oracle
Lotus Notes,
yeah. Lotus Notes. God, thanks. I'm flubbing on my words here. But yes, they don't do that. Well, no, they actually just started doing that. So that product line is coming along.
Cool.
But I worked with a number of customers that used Lotus Notes, and it was problematic. Users couldn't report like you can with Proofpoint and the Trap product. You know how users can say, or even like a Wombat security awareness service, they can report a suspicious email.
Yeah.
They don't have anything like that with Notes. So,
gotcha. Yeah, and
you're right.
Subsequently, Proofpoint just bought Wombat like 4 or 5 months ago. Yeah, and so they're actually integrating Wombat in with the Proofpoint product, so you can automate phishing and stuff too. Yeah,
I was at the. I was just, whatever it was. I just by happenstance was at a Proofpoint user group because our regular admin couldn't go, and I was interested in the new product development, specifically in their sandboxing technology.
Yeah.
And they all found out while we were there that they had purchased Wombat. And Wombat as a secure, again, Adrian doesn't care if we diss on some products. They don't sponsor a show, so whatever. But Wombat as a security awareness product is childish. They have fucking fish floating around asking questions. It's yeah, it was that's no good.
Yeah, but they did have a solid infrastructure and back end, and I think that's why Proofpoint acquired them, because of that back end and being able to then integrate it into the product.
And they'll probably rewrite the training. They all have to go through that, pretty frequently. So,
yeah, and I work with FishMe, and I've done homegrown stuff, and I have always done my own independent backend training, and just made those pages myself. So
that's that might be an interesting topic at some point. Do you guys, or do you perform regular phishing assessments against your employees with FishMe?
Yep. Or any other phishing company?
Nope, because that would have led to my immediate termination.
If it's not done right, it can. And I will tell you, I've worked with Kingfisher, which is an open source product that was developed by Secure State. It's not as, it's an open source tool, right? So it's not like a FishMe commercial product, but arranging and developing the right type of email to send to employees and who to send it to, like executives and shit like that, is more complicated than one would think.
Yes.
Interesting.
But were you doing it as a on-site employee or a consultant?
As an on-site employee.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it's actually easier as an on-site employee employee than it is as a consultant because you have more insider information, as an employee.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, we had rules about, one of the biggest things was when tax season was coming around.
Oh yes,
And
that's such an easy one.
I was adamant that we test that because the attackers are testing that.
Yes.
And they thought it would look too real to the employees. And I'm like, okay,
That's
good.
the point.
That's the
Yeah.
point.
It's the whole point.
Yes, I ran into that also.
And then it got down to the executives. They didn't want to be tricked.
Yeah.
And we go, hey, if anybody has proprietary information that could damage the company, it's you guys. CEO spoofing, CFO spoofing happens all the time.
Yep.
You know how, I mean, I'm not telling anybody here anything new, but they need to be tested.
Yes.
And you got to find the right way to sell it to them. We eventually did, but it was a hard sell.
Yeah.
Again.
Plus too, how many emails going to the CEO does the CEO actually see?
If
I guess it
he's
depends on
worth his
business, right?
beans, then it's 0 because it's somebody else managing his account.
Exactly.
Or
It's
her
normally an admin or an assistant who is reading and taking action on those emails, and then he's only seeing what he needs to see.
So we had 2 email addresses for one our CEO.
Yeah.
One was the one that went into the admin assistants, and the other one was his real email that went right into him.
Oh.
So that was sort of interesting, but it wouldn't fool anybody. Had they spent any time doing reconnaissance?
Yeah.
You guys know how easy it is to pull data from LinkedIn. Once you understand what the format of a company's email address is.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
You pull all the employees, their titles, who they report to, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
That recon takes about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
If you know what you're doing, yeah.
You don't. I mean, legitimately, for people out there listening, you don't even need to know what you're doing to do that. There are open source tools that will allow you to pull all of that in and put it into a CVS or a spreadsheet of some sort. I think by default it comes with CVS, but it's a script kiddie type thing. Before we had to develop our own product. We were writing it in Python.
Yep.
But as security researchers will do, they do good things, and then they do shit that was like, it's like, come on, guys. Don't we want to make this a little bit hard on the adversaries?
And if you pop a marketing company usually has all that data too.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Which has happened multiple times in the last 6 months.
Third-party vendors, man.
Sorry, I just saw this was a phishing attack, and that grinds my gears a little bit, only because we should be doing better. Our users should be doing better. And at some point, I hope that this, I don't know, maybe not for me as a red teamer, which sometimes is allowed to phish employees. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this attack vector needs to go away.
Yeah, but that only come with consistent, ongoing education, though. Too, you got to remember you have existing employees, but those existing employees, may not click on a fish, but you're going to have employee turnover. You're going to have somebody who's never seen a fish in their life that they have identified or known was a fish. So you have that consistent
Adrian,
ongoing that has to happen.
how many talks have you heard that are completely against security awareness training?
I don't think I've
And you're
against security awareness training.
You haven't? I mean, it's a pretty big deal with a lot of people within the industry, is that security awareness doesn't work. I think it does.
Yes.
But it has to
I think
be
a good thing
more
to do
than-
from an outsider's perspective would be to have like automated tools and stuff like that that could be used to detect the different phishing attacks. I mean, just from somebody who really isn't too close to it.
Yeah, and there are those tools, but security awareness, like we're talking about, like WANBAP and Inspired e-learning, and there's a whole bunch of other ones out there.
Yep.
You have to couple it with other things. We had an initiative program where we would reward employees if they detected phishing, or if they detected something off. Maybe somebody left their computer unlocked in a high value or a high target area.
Mm-hmm.
And then we did brown bag lunches every quarter. All of that together, I think, is important. But I've heard too many naysayers in our industry that talk about how worthless security awareness training is. So I figured Adrian has been.
I don't recall.
He's gone to more cons.
Watch through, so.
What's that?
A lot of my talks I don't watch through.
Oh, okay.
So there is a problem that is a different problem related. It's very endemic to our industry, where a lot of people replace or use cynicism as a substitute for knowledge or insight. Is it not specific to
100% true.
And yes, not specific in the least to InfoSec, but it is an enormous issue, and it does result in long-standing problems, like people saying, "Oh, it's impossible to protect yourself against being hacked, so why bother doing anything?"
Yeah. 100% that is a real issue. Listeners should keep that in mind. I know the people that are naysayers of security awareness, and I don't think that's them. They have the knowledge. I think they've just become curmudgeons.
That's exactly what I'm saying. They're saying that they think that there is no value to it. Perhaps it is an unsolvable problem.
Right.
That why
but
bother doing anything?
Like, it's not in lieu of knowledge. Like I'm saying, they've spent their career trying to make it work, and it just hasn't. And it's still going on. It's getting worse. And I think they become curmudgeons about it. I don't think they're substituting this thing in lieu of knowledge. But you're absolutely right. That is a real problem in our industry.
Understood.
In all IT, it's not security, but security has security has its own issues, right? We know that the talent in IT security still isn't there. And I'm not talking about you, Charles, but your daughter does not have any experience in this field.
No, she doesn't.
His daughter probably has been exposed to more in the field than many people actually working in it.
Yes, 100%. And we know that's a big problem in our field. So
you think there's a cynicism there.
What Liz brings up is an important topic. It's something we should discuss. I don't know if it's now, but I think it's important. So good point, Liz. I'll spank you on the butt later.
DerbyCon.
I don't know if
Still
I'll
need to
be
get a
able
ticket
to.
for that.
Well, I mean, you guys haven't. I know for a fact that security awareness training does work. I've seen in my 7 years of being in government IT, there's only been one incident that I've been aware of where it actually shut down an entire segment of a network.
Yeah, it does work, and it doesn't work for everybody. Some people are just stupid.
Yep.
true.
Some people are fireable.
And
Yeah, and that
you know
person
what?
was fired.
But
You have to
it is.
recognize. So go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was going to say that a lot of it is on us to make sure that we're not by default educators.
No, we're not.
But that's what we should be in our role.
Yeah.
We have to teach people how to use appropriate length and appropriately complex passwords, even when they meet the company default standard policy for passwords. Some companies have 8, where it's a mixture of numbers and letters and symbols. So that's where you get the spring 2018 exclamation point, because that follows the company standard. But it's not a secure password.
Yep.
So you have to teach them about passphrases and how to remember passwords, and things like you create a decently complex password, and you can use it on various accounts if you want. If you like, you have Exchange. Let's say your AD account is, man, this echoing is killing me. But you use like your Active Directory. I'm not saying this would be, but different than Exchange. And you can use you can craft your password so that you can use the same password for AD as you do with Exchange. And what I mean by that is adding symbols after your default password and adding something like EX, or you'd want to make it more complex than that, but that is a complex password that would allow you to use an account or a password, I'm sorry, for like 90 days. That's complex and hard to guess. So anyway,
character though.
Personally, I would recommend advocating more for
Length
password managers rather than trying to get people to memorize passphrases, as it's passphrases add a lot of friction. When you're starting to have passwords that are 20 plus characters long, it gets to be, people start to get really obnoxious when they need to sign in to 7 or 8 different accounts.
Yeah.
Maybe more than 15. They're trying too hard. But yes, again, in a perfect world, a lot of what I'm saying comes from working in industries where there's high turnover. People may barely have a high school education. Password managers weren't something that we were deploying. The company didn't have budget for it. We had a corporate vault, of course, but that wasn't licensed for all users.
Yeah, for individuals.
And you're right. I mean, using password managers is the appropriate thing to do. In lieu of that, you have to teach them how to use passwords securely and complex without being overly complex. 20 characters doesn't do anything for you. If you're over 15, you've done a great service to your account.
Yeah,
Let's say that.
And two, always remembering that if try as an industry, we need to stop saying passwords in general and try to stress passphrases. Yeah, Because if you tell somebody
as an industry,
your password needs to be 16 characters, they're gonna be like, "Oh shit!" But if you say a passphrase, so for example, I grew up on blah 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 21st Street, you know.
I don't even think it's a concept worth exploring. I see many people who do not spend all their lives in front of a computer typing at a rate of maybe 30 characters a minute. There is so much friction that it adds to the when you're going from password to a passphrase. The people who need the help the most, the people who use these 6 or 7 character passwords, they're not expected to type an entire phrase. It's gonna be consequences, and I don't think it has any merit to promote.
You're still gonna have though a password or a passphrase somewhere. If you're signing into a computer prior to a password manager, you're still going to have to use it. If you have your password manager, you're still going to have a password, passphrase to get into it. So you're still going to have that passphrase somewhere.
A one-time thing, sure. Yeah. Something that you're going to need to type in 7 or 8 times, no.
Well, and I agree. Password managers are by far the best solution. I use them on freaking everything.
Can't you just use the command?
I think we all agree to that. I don't think there's a disagreement. But they do not fit everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think as an industry, we started switching the way we talked about passwords to passphrases in like 2005 or 2007.
We started quite a while ago. But we still have passwords consistently being used everywhere. I mean, if I talk to a director, a director is going to say password immediately.
Yep.
He's not even going to think passphrase.
Yep.
And we just haven't done a good enough job of getting that.
I'm not sure the semantic argument's really going to have much of an impact on the end result.
The only thing I know is that when you the higher it goes up, like we found that the max was around 12. That if it's 12 characters, alternating capitals, blah blah blah, no repeating symbols. If you go up to 16, you're going to have these people who I like to call frequent flyers that always lock out their fucking accounts, and you gotta fucking unlock it for them, give them a complex password, which they end up, or passphrase, which they end up fucking locking up the account again, and then you have to go back in, and then finally it just got to the point of where I just said, look, I'm not going to unlock this shit no more. You just got to learn to do without.
Yeah, I think Liz's point is the right one. I don't think any of us disagree with password managers are the way to go. That's what I teach my family, to use password managers. But when it comes to certain end users where that's not a possibility, we do need to use the phrase passphrases, and we need to teach them how to use them appropriately. And I think that's the whole point, Liz. I think it's not a semantic argument. It's logistics and where it will work in a corporation. So I know you know. I know you know. I wanted to clarify that for the listeners if they were stuck on the last couple of minutes of our conversation here.
Yeah, by semantic, I meant more emphasizing to CEOs that they should say passphrases instead of passwords. I mean, at this point, I think it would be a lot of effort for a little result for that specific push.
What about writing when we write our security policy? And a lot of this has to do with the product vendors as well. I mean, Microsoft doesn't use the term passphrase.
True.
They don't use it anywhere. And what the user sees in every web form, in every application, is the word password.
Yep.
I was just about to think as well. A lot of the frameworks that you get out of the box will come with their own pre-built authentication that will even give you like the full HTML form for and back end to support it, and it's username password. It's not username passphrase.
So Liz again offers a great point, and obviously Israel and I are more on the side of educating end users that cannot use password managers, as well as Jack, to use passphrases and teach them to use them properly and correctly. But he's right. In the long term, the industry as a whole, not our industry, I'm talking about the application industry, isn't going to change.
Yes, blame the devs.
They will continue to use password, and whether or not we write it into our policies or hammer it into our user's head. You talked about turnover before, Israel. When new people come in, they are going to, and they've used password their entire lives.
Well, some people.
The concept of using a space inside of that
a 70-year-old man.
People.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think it's good for us to educate people that can be educated to use passphrases in lieu of password managers where they're not possible, but where they are possible, implement password managers.
So just out of curiosity, so when we're talking about a password vault or a password manager, in context of business, the kind you are thinking of is one that is centrally managed, right?
Yes. At the very best, yes. Sometimes, again, you don't have that luxury. We had to pass out KeyPass. And with KeyPass, we wrote up instructions for how to use it. And that went out to, until we got budget for a centrally managed password vault. The licensing, dude, for Psychotic and CyberArk and things like that is excessive. It's large companies like banks and shit can afford it. Other companies can't. So you do what you can where you can, and the right way to do it is something centrally managed. Whether that be LastPass, which can be centrally managed, there is a business account for that. It doesn't need to be a password vault in the way we're normally thinking of a password vault, an enterprise password vault. I know LastPass offers one. I know OnePass offers one. PassVault offers a centrally managed one.
Yep.
It's up to us to sell that.
Yep.
Sell that up the chain and make them understand why we need to use it. So yeah.
So what are these situations? What are the scenarios that a password manager that's maybe not even centrally managed, but it's a generic password manager like a KeyPass or Password Safe or anything else like that? When are even those not an option?
Oftentimes, whenever you're a business, because unless you want to pay, because a lot of the times the freebies aren't necessarily freebies if you're a business. If it's just a straight end user, they're fine with you having it on a personal device. But if it's corporate device, the expectation is that you pay.
So
some password managers don't mind for business.
Yeah, you're right. For the company that I worked for the last 4 years, one of the big issues was the people that we would deploy a password manager to, like KeyPass. They had night, day, and evening shift managers, GMs, because the store was 24/7. And they would frequently cycle in and out. There was high turnover at those roles. And we had so many occasions where they started writing down the password to their password vault and not keeping it somewhere safe, like a locked drawer where they have a key, which I was okay with. If you can hide it and it's hid well, it's behind a key, do what you need to do. But they would frequently lose the password and then lose all of the passwords within the password vault. Unfortunately, they were all shared accounts. And that was something that we were doing our best to get away with. But again, when I got to this company, there was no security program. We were a completely green field. And that's an occasion where something like a password vault didn't work for a lot of our employees. And we're talking 500 stores with near 900 managers and GMs and DMs and things like that. So an awful lot of passwords got lost when we first tried to deploy this. So we did. We started thinking about centrally managed. We started, we were looking to make sure that the user accounts were unique, but there were specific application reasons why they couldn't be. But we were working with the app development team, and that was the road we were going down. So that's just one example I have of some issues we had with password managers and their deployment.
Understood. Oh, that's definitely food for thought. Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, we need to move on because we are still on the first topic of the breach report.
Wait, the topic of the breach report?
No, we're still in
first
the breach
topic, which is the breach report.
All right, was that the last of it?
Fiserv is still.
We've got Fiserv.
But I did want to throw out real quick, Lycotic. They do have a freebie. If you're an SMB, check it out because they have a freebie out there that's their full version, up to I think it's like 20 or 25 systems or something. But if you're an SMB, check that out because that could be of help to you. So,
and I don't know if other folks agree. Adrian, Charles, the rest of you guys. I thought the conversation that we just had was important. It wasn't a point that we had on our sheet.
Yeah.
But it was well worth the time, I think. And in lieu, we could cut some of the other stuff out, but I thought it was an interesting conversation. I thought Liz brought up some really good points. So it was interesting to counter those and talk through them.
Yep.
So Fiserv, we can cut through pretty quickly, I think. I added that last night. Fiserv is a company that a lot of card processors use.
Yes.
So if you go to, if you slide your card at a gas station or at a store, 37 some odd % of processors use Fiserv.
Wow.
So they had a exposed customer data at a number of banks, and this doesn't look on the surface very serious. But what the researcher noted was he signed up to get email alerts about transactions being posted to his account, and then he was able to enumerate those events.
Oh no!
Which would allow him to access potentially other customers' bank information, email address, phone number, and bank account number. So a big deal there because they are a very large company that I'm sure we've all used at some point or another in our transactions.
Or we're forced to.
What's that?
I said or we're forced to use. Unknowingly.
Like
Yeah.
unknowingly, there's probably all of us have probably used this at some point.
So Adrian can back me up on this. He's the other person with red team experience here. If you're doing a web application assessment or an application assessment, one of the first things you do is try to enumerate accounts, whether that be through the front end with the user accounts, or whether that be you get a couple of test accounts and you see the ID being served up by like Burp Suite. There will be a contextual ID, which oftentimes you can change the number of that ID and allow you to access other people's accounts. I know PeopleSoft had a big deal with that. We brought it up to the company and they made a fix. So it's a common issue. But goddamn, man, you think a company this large that handles this many customers and card data and bank accounts and shit like that, they'd have had this testing done before.
You would
think.
hope so.
Yeah.
You would hope and think so.
Yeah,
Is that right? Am I wrong,
I don't
Adrian?
really have that kind of well, I didn't have the trust before Equifax, but still.
Yeah. Well, Equifax was like a whole other beast, wasn't it? I mean, it was like patching. And apparently they were patching pretty successfully, but they missed a couple of systems, and those were important updates.
Yeah, and they were
So I'm not giving them a pass by no means. And it was something as simple as vulnerability management. But I give Fiserv a little more credit than I do Equifax.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, okay. Like the thing with
Maybe you guys
Equifax,
disagree.
a company gets breached, they get the same credit from me. But the thing of why Equifax was such a big deal was not so much the technology side of, oh, we didn't patch this in time and we got breached. It was the length of the time that it took for them to find the breach and then notify the public, and then also their mitigation and processes thereafter. Like they did.
Yeah.
There was a whole bunch of other
Sure.
things that happened. Their official Twitter account linked out a phishing.
No, it went to a paid. It linked out a fake phishing page that was made to mock Equifax's official
Right.
page to say, or put in your information here to see if your information was compromised.
Right. Now, it's not uncommon when companies are breached to withhold that data from. There's actually a benefit to doing that, withholding that information from the public.
Mm-hmm.
There's a benefit to them, and it's a lot of legal speak.
Right.
But they get protection from their cyber insurance. A lot goes into it. What was worse about them was, I mean, this was an edge server.
Yeah.
And like everything you guys just said, once people recognized it and they sent out information for, we're talking about grandma and grandpa signing up for, protect their credit, and they get led to a phishing page.
Mm-hmm.
It's sad.
Grandma and Grandpa, what are you doing on the internet? I told you to stay off of that.
But I get what you're saying. I know that Equifax had been and just they don't want to labor too much on this as the main topic is Pfizer. Actually, never mind. I'm gonna stop my point there because I know I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole. Let's just go back to Pfizer.
I'm gonna call you Alice.
Hey, Liz, more than happy after this is done to run through it with you if you want to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, sure.
I've got nothing much to say about it, but I'd like to know where your thoughts are.
Okay.
Okay. Next
so that was it on Krebs. Let's move on from this jackass.
Weird group of the week is tankies, which was brought up by Caprico last week because someone on his feed called someone else a tanky. Anyway.
And I was just.
We have a definition yet?
We have a rough definition, and I have two choices to give definitions from SJ Wiki, which brings me to Pro Social Justice Warrior site, or Urban Dictionary. Yes, SJ Wiki. Look it up.
Oh my God.
It's pretty revolting. I learned something called a brochure-list. A brochure-list is basically a very, as far as I know in real life, a very weak man who pisses off other communists because he at least has some masculine traits. Is what I get from brochure-list. But that's a different. A tanky.
Is that so? Just real quick to kind of clarify it for me. Do you remember that? There was, I don't know if it was a Battle of Berkeley or it was somewhere in California where there was a protest and the women were communists and they were pushing a white dude forward. And he was saying, "Hey, I've been here in front all day." And he was a pretty masculine dude. He wasn't a feminine person. I mean, he was up there on the front lines. Whatever he believed in it, and he put his body on the line. And then they told him that he was essentially worthless because of his color and his sex. Is that sort of what that is?
A brochure-list? Well, he wouldn't be a brochure. Well, yeah, actually, those women would probably consider him a brochure-list. Probably, yes.
Okay.
But
go ahead. I'm sorry.
And quite frankly, social justice eats its freaking self because it's not about real social justice. There's this idiot online that goes by, he's Chris Ing. He once said something about, I never understood social justice warrior as a derogatory term. Who hate, or what was it? What was the rest of it? Hey, bro, you stand for equality. Sick burn, bro, or something like that. I'm like, you
used to.
Moron. You know what social justice actually is in real life? Social justice in real life, as the term is used, is it's used ironically. It's not about real social justice. It's about virtue signaling and how great you are and blaming other people for all your problems and not taking any responsibility.
A long time ago, social justice,
reverse racism,
and social justice warriors meant something.
I can't remember his name.
A long time ago. But it's since
dude.
It's a cartoon of itself.
Okay. Actually, you had an argument with this guy one time. Well, back and forth, live beef. I can't remember the dude's name now. Oh crap! You said something along the lines of also social justice warrior as a derogatory term is kind of dumb. What Nazi hates social justice? It's not about real social justice, you fucking moron. Then again, he's also the same person when accusations are made, he automatically believes they're true, as depending on what the demographic is of the person who's being accused. It's fucking pathetic. Anyway, the fact that some people would make a wiki, and this maybe it's the social justice wiki is one big joke, but it's not about real social justice.
No. You know, think back. I'm sure you guys can think of a number of historical social justice warriors that earned their stripes, and that's who we should remember as social justice warriors. They're a far cry from what the fuck whatever we have today.
Oh gosh, I don't want to get involved in this, but you're right.
Yeah, you do. I don't want to either, but here we are.
I'll be entirely honest, staying off of Twitter for so long has made me a little less apt to rant about social justice warriors.
Yes, sir.
I face it on a daily basis, whether it be whether it be on social media. I actually have friends that well, aren't you offended by this? No, why the fuck should I be?
Oh, don't get me wrong. I've met them as well in person. I don't deal with them as much as you do. I guess I'm just okay. I guess your situation's a bit different then. But yeah, just being exposed to less of them constantly is. Try it out sometime. It's really nice.
I'll go with a 10.
Yeah, Liz. I talked about it at the beginning of the cast. Like, me being away from work since the 3rd of August, I stopped listening to my podcasts. I've been off Twitter for the most part, except to chat with you guys. And I don't watch YouTube videos anymore about politics. And my level of stress has went down remarkably. Not only that, but my knowledge of what's going on in the outside world. And normal people don't give a shit about this stuff. Like, nobody cares outside of the people on the internet. Like,
nope. Well,
okay.
The people on the internet do live somewhere. It's just not as concentrated in real life.
You will find those people in areas, except it might not be as common in the areas that you go about your day-to-day life. Like, for just an example, myself, I've noticed an exponential change in that, both in going and studying in Europe, and then coming back and not going back to university because I've graduated. I haven't had to quote unquote deal with social justice warriors. I have to deal with that kind of politics in my day-to-day, whereas before I was dealing with it on a daily basis. I was living on campus. I was doing I was going to all these parties where and universities. That's where a lot of this stuff, or a lot of that mentality started, and it festers and grows.
Well, and I wouldn't say only start, but just to verify, validate, it's also taught in some ways, right?
Yeah, depending on the science. Depending on, I'm gonna turn off my screen share. Depending on the
skull back.
Yeah.
Depending on your program, right?
Yeah, depending on your program. Like, if you're in I was in IT. What were we gonna talk about? We're gonna talk about IT stuff. But I had a roommate my junior year, no, my sophomore year of college, and he was a political science major, so he would have all of his friends over, and he's a very left-wing guy, and so he gets along with a lot of those, along with the SJWs. He doesn't as much anymore, as he sees, as I've
this is the dude you were telling me about last night, I think.
Yeah, that guy. Same dude that is actually the reason we're talking about tankies.
Yeah. Before you keep going, I should have known better than on a technical podcast where we're all so anal to say nobody in the real world cares about this shit.
I mean, it's
because I knew. I should have known it was going to be. Wait, no. Let me get through the general definition of a tanky. How's that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's finish the definition.
I will hold my point.
Yeah. Urban Dictionary basically defines it as such: a hardline Stalinist. A tanky is a member of a communist group or a fellow traveler, sympathizer who believes fully in the political system of the Soviet Union and defended the actions of the Soviet Union and other accredited states, China, Siberia, etc., to the hilt, even in cases where other communists criticize their policies and actions. For instance, such a person favors overseas intervention by Soviet-style states, defends these regimes when they engage in human rights violations, and wishes to establish a similar system in other countries, such as Britain and America. Term is used to distinguish the rare individuals with these kinds of beliefs from communists more broadly, including Communist Party members whose adherence to Soviet doctrine and attachment to existing socialist states is somewhat weaker. It is always more or less abusive in the sense that those termed tankies do not use the term themselves, but it doesn't have any particular bite, unlike, say, trot, which is short for Trotsky. The term derives from the fact that the divisions within the communist movement first arose when the Soviet Union sent tanks into communist Hungary in 1956 to crush an attempt to establish an alternative version of communism, which was not embraced by the Russians. Most communists outside the Eastern Bloc opposed this action and criticized the Soviet Union. The tankies were those who said, "Send the tanks in." The epitaph had stuck because tankies also support sending the tanks in cases such as Czechoslovakia in 1968, Afghanistan in 1979, Bosnia and Kosovo in the case of the Siberian state, and so on, whereas the rest of the communist movement has gravitated towards anti-militarism. I wouldn't be surprised if the tankies even defend Saddam Hussein. Some of the people around George W. Bush used to be left-wing. They haven't really changed their views much. They were mostly tankies. That's a quote at the end of the user. Here's the thing that gets me about the tanky thing. If they don't support Soviet Union, the average communist doesn't support Soviet Union, how come at all these protests I see people waving around the hammer and sickle?
Yeah.
Also, the people who think anarcho-communism was ever going to work, how exactly do you redistribute the wealth without a state? Like, I'm just going to.
I talked to some people on Reddit who's part of the libertarian subreddit, and a lot of those folks are libertarian, but they're anarcho-communist libertarian. While on the right side you have anarcho-capitalist. Mm-hmm. So it's a nice bunch to mix up with, but
how
yeah, dude,
the wealth without taking a gun from me.
I don't understand either side or argument. Like, every time they start talking about the way things would work, you go, have you lived here?
Yeah, I'm not saying
know damn well that wouldn't work.
I'm not saying these repressive regimes are good things, but they're going to happen. There's no way that system's going to work. This whole, we're always going to live in peace and only do the jobs we want to do and share all the wealth and the means to these resources and this means of production, but not let it fall into decay because it's not one person's single thing. I mean, you've heard of the tragedy of the commons, right?
Sure.
Yep.
Originally it was about, I think, grazing animals in some pasture. The pasture doesn't belong to everybody. Everybody grazes all their cattle in it until the point where the pasture is shit because all the grass is eaten up. It's nothing but a eroded mud puddle. That's the tragedy of the commons. They don't see this is ever happening. They also don't see that not everybody's going to want the wealth redistributed. For instance, if someone tries to do that for me and I have enough like-minded people around, it's going to have to result in violence because I'm not giving up my shit that I earned and I work for.
And they know that. And I've talked to them about that. Like, they say, if we need a shovel, we'll get a shovel. And I say, well, what if the owner of the shovel doesn't want to give you the shovel? And they say, well, we'll take the shovel. Okay, so you're already starting violence. What happens when that person reciprocates? What if he has like-minded people like Adrian around or myself who isn't going to allow that? Where's your police force? Oh, there's none. We're effectively using mercenaries everywhere. Corporate mercenaries of some sort. Who pays the goddamn mercenaries?
That's on the
no. We'd be a collective and everybody would chip in as police officers. Yeah, fuck you, because the other side isn't going to have a cooperative. When I say cooperative, you guys know what I mean in terms of the socialist etiquette. Everybody chips in. The other side is going to have a marshaled police force, and they're going to be highly trained. It's weird how they play these mental gymnastics in order to validate their opinion and the way they think things should work. It's odd. It really is. I mean, a couple of years ago we had Charlottesville, and not side by side, but on opposite sides, we saw Nazi flags and hammer and sickle flags. Now, the Nazi people are few and far between, right? There was like one or two of them. They had an international gathering and managed to get 150, 200 people to show up. That was internationally. People came in from Sweden and shit. But these Soviet flags, the hammer and sickle, you see them all the time. It's everywhere.
Yep.
Well, I've seen dumbass communists say that the Gadsden flag is some kind of fascist symbol. It's a libertarian.
Yeah, right.
And remember the dumbass that pulled the hat off the guy at Hope and only exacerbated things? Beyond using comrade every other sentence, he said something to the extent of libertarians or close to white nationalists. What the fuck are you talking about?
Well, their point is, from what I understand, that libertarianism is a gateway drug to white nationalism somehow.
So white nationalism is cocaine, and libertarianism is marijuana.
Yes. And how do you prove that?
What would tankies be?
By taking
tankies
examples.
would be heroin, man. Or speed. They would be speed.
Nah, I feel like there have to be some sort of more esoteric kind of some sort of exotic drug. Because tankies are rare. Tankies are they're a rare subsect of political LARPers on the internet who were born after the Soviet Union collapsed.
That's a good term, actually. I'm going to use that now. Political LARPer.
Hey, I just want to point out, Fine Intelligent Perspective on YouTube just referred to us as fine specimens, and I kind of like that.
Well,
dude, thank you. Didn't someone just make that comment in the comment section?
Yes.
That's awesome.
My bottom line on tankies is I'm not saying I like the ideology. I just think it's more self-consistent because I don't see how else any of these kind of systems are going to decay into once you want to redistribute the wealth.
Yeah, because it will never work in the United States. You know what? Back when the U.S. was small, there was a, to each his need, or whatever. I forget how the fucking phrase goes again. I'm now going probably near 37 hours of no sleep, but
like that.
What's that?
To each after their need, for each after. I'll look it up.
Yeah, something to each their
from each of their ability to each according to their need or something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. And that worked when there was just a small colony.
But that wasn't American, man. That's a line from, I believe, the Communist Manifesto.
Yes.
You're right. You're right. But I mean, they had something similar when the U.S. first started. People didn't really have money. They had to work together in order to achieve things.
And my understanding, a lot of them didn't actually successfully work together, and a lot of them people starved, froze to death.
Fuck yeah.
Some motherfuckers were out there looking for gold and shit instead of farming and raising livestock.
Yep. In a communist society, would we have things like the iPhone or Android or Samsung phones or
potentially,
Macs, or
but it would all be government owned.
Wait.
It would be China.
Yeah.
China's not a communist society. They have a capitalism market.
Yes.
Yeah. So they're not an example one would shine up to say, hey, we've done shit. Look at over in China.
But they're not far from.
There's got to be incentives for the really smart people to make lots of money. And without that incentive, what are they going to do? They're going to work based on a gun held at their head? I try to understand where these people are coming from, because I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and to think today there would be people flying the hammer and sickle around is just, it's just beyond comprehension. Like, we saw what it did to East Germany, to Russia.
The people who are flying it around did not see what it did. They're not old enough. Most of them.
I realize that. I'm saying from my experience, just living through all of that, and then seeing today that we have people with, hammer and sickle and sometimes Nazi flags. It's like, what universe am I living in? How the fuck did we get this way? What happened? Is the United States
80s and 90s
safest? It's the safest it's ever been in the history of the nation. Wealth inequality is the lowest it's been. Capitalism has raised somewhere near 50% of the planet out of abject poverty.
Yeah, that's less wealth inequality, and it's a very important point, but that's not wealth inequality.
When I talk about wealth inequality, I'm not talking about comparing your 1%ers to people like us. You know what I mean? It's more comparing people like us to people in the lower income bracket.
Okay.
And you know what I mean? You can't. It's super hard to do when you go, hey, let's take Mark Cuban and compare him to someone on the lower income bracket. I mean, it's going to be enormous. But how many are those people? There's not a lot of them. I mean, enough. But I get where you're going, but I've always thought of it as compare your normal individual to people on the lower bracket. They have cell phones, we have cell phones. They have cars, we have cars. They have air conditioning. And believe me, I lived my entire life in the lower income bracket, until I discovered IT. And I know Jack did as well. We both grew up in the hood, and I'm telling you, it wasn't. I mean, we had food to eat. Well, at least me. I can't speak for Jack. I imagine he ate food. But we had a TV set. I had a bike. I mean, it wasn't poverty like you'd expect in some of the third world nations. And I know that's not a term that you're supposed to use today. But capitalism brought half of the world out of abject poverty, and most of that was in India and China.
In the chat, the guy's a colossal dumbass.
So, are there things that we can be doing better to help people? Absolutely, the United States could be doing better to help people. But it's not a bad place to live. Like, I think about these people, and like, you'd see. I'm sorry to go out on a tangent here, but I would watch people come from Mexico and Central America, and they would come up here and then protest against our capitalistic government. They were protesting for communism.
Well,
I'm thinking, what the fuck? What did you just come from? And you want that here?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Like I said, for the most part, I've just been keeping quiet because, well,
I know.
I'm 2 days in, dealing with dumbasses. That's the one thing that burns me up is when people come from elsewhere and say, "Oh, well, we want to make it exactly like home." You either learn to adapt or you go to fuck back. And some people could say that I'm a conservative because I have those beliefs.
You're pretty damn far from a conservative, Jack.
Sorry, Charles doing his dance, kind of threw me off.
Yeah.
Jack, what was the
No,
thing?
I
What was the
know-
term
I
that you
know
were
where you're coming from.
Man, I'm sorry.
I know you're coming from, Jack, and I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
I mean, you were in the military, so you probably feel it stronger than I do. But, dude, my grandparents came here from Puerto Rico, which
is a
you
U.S.
guys know.
Which is U.S. possession, which means that they're U.S. citizens.
Yeah.
Exactly. You're an alien.
Exactly. No. Not an alien. But they were certainly not living like Americans do. It was an impoverished area. High crime, all of that shit. And they moved up here for work. And they were proud of being Americans. And they worked at an auto factory, my grandpa did. And he was so proud of it. I mean, he flew a flag outside of his house. And now we see people coming here that hate the country somehow. And you go...
That's so true, Ricky. Yeah, similar thing. My father's parents came from Italy, and he couldn't even speak English, but he signed up to be an air raid warden. I guess this was around like World War II or something, to let people know when to turn off their lights and stuff like that, if like just in case bombs are going to be dropped or whatever. And he was so proud to be an American citizen. So yeah, it's really interesting how I guess there's been like society has had like a culture change in that there's like less patriotism and stuff like that. That's interesting that you said that.
But I really want to understand why, but when I watch them protest and I hear them talk about it, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I would like to understand their point. Like,
I've given it up. I mean, there's I've had it out with both people on the left and people on the right. One guy on the right was so standoffish because he swears up and down that Dearborn, Michigan is a no-go zone if you're an American.
Oh yeah, I've seen stuff like that because of a large influx of the Muslim population, right?
I've been to Dearborn. I've walked around. I've taken selfies. Nobody fucked with me.
You know why?
Because I leave people to fuck alone and I just do my thing.
Well, yeah, and I mean, granted, that's what we did growing up, right?
Yes.
I mean, we learned how to act in that situation.
Yeah, you mind your own business. Like, whenever I go out, I don't go up trying to confront people.
No, I mean,
nobody ever messes with me. Ta-da!
Yeah.
Non-aggression
exactly right.
principle.
Yeah. Now, if somebody starts messing with me, yes, I'm going to strike right back. But
conservatives are fucked.
1 out of 1,000 times.
Conservatives are fucked. Liberals are fucked.
There's and it gets worse with the fucking liberals, and they're still talking about, Trump's on his way out. Well, regardless, you're still going to have to deal with Pence. Well, no, we'll get Pence too. And I'm like, well, when does it stop? You can't just systematically want to destroy one part of the government just because you don't agree with it. You'll get through it like we got through Bush.
Why are you all trying to understand people who are nuts? Like, why are you trying to get inside their minds? What's the benefit to it?
I'll tell you why I do. Because these nuts bring the fringes.
Hold on,
the fringes bring the normals to them. So people a little left of center and a little left of right, they start gathering with these people. You've got major Democratic Party members that before would have nothing to do with socialism. That wasn't their bag. They would never have anything to do with socialism. But then they're going to run on that ticket.
Well, actually, Tim Pool had a video about this like yesterday or something about extremes on one side causes extremes on the other.
Yes.
It's the pendulum, right?
No question. Well, it's reciprocal extremism. People who see their ideological opponents or people attacking them being extreme think they need to be extreme in order to fight them.
Yep.
Right. And that's the reason why I try to understand them. I don't want to pay too much attention to. Again, I try to understand. I try to talk to the various people because I want to understand what the issues are to them. Like where are you coming from and why do you feel this way? That's been mostly a losing battle because their arguments don't make any sense. But they are bringing over a large amount of people that are involved in politics that would be on the fringes.
And
so you're right. Why try to understand them? I don't know. I don't know if this is going to swing back and this shit just goes away. But, Liz, we are so far down this fucking decay of our culture. It's going to take significant work to ever get it back.
Sure. And just to clarify, I agree with you. It's great to understand why someone thinks the way they do from their perspective, to try to find commonalities. That is great. I should clarify that a lot of the people, these nuts that I see out there, are not people who have put much thought into what they advocate. It's they do what they were taught or they learn from their peers or their parents. Right. Mostly peers these days. And those people aren't, even if they're willing to have a conversation, which is potluck, it might be of limited utility, limited use of trying to find commonality or any kind of coherent rationale behind their actions.
Right. Agreed. Yeah, I agree 100% with that. You can only go so far when you're talking to people that lack any type of rationality. But I mean, we obviously care enough about the culture that we would want to see it if we could. And we're just how many dudes, right? And there's not a lot we can do in terms of overall swaying, except for voting locally in the right way.
And in terms of politicians, there's always been people on the fringe. I mean, there's been, I think it's from Maine, there's a politician who has been openly a white nationalist in the KKK for decades. And there's always cranks out there.
Yep. But they've never before had traction like they did now. There's this one really scary guy that I watched some videos of him on YouTube a while back. And he's not a Nazi. He's a white maybe a white nationalist.
Oh, great! It sounds like you talking with Jared Taylor.
Yes. Yeah.
The thing is, he's so calm, and he comes up much more intelligent than people like Richard Spencer. Like Richard Spencer has economic systems that actually are closer to National Socialism, in my understanding of, and just says some doesn't come off as but yeah, that guy is Jared Taylor's good at turning words.
Yeah, well, I mean, he went to Yale. I mean, he went to some good schools, from what I've read about him. But he's scary in the way that he's got this gleam of a fanatic about him. And he was talking about, I think he was talking to like Oprah or something. And he was telling her when, before all this started happening, he had a magazine. And I think his like, people that was subscribed to it was something like 15,000 people. But once this shit started happening, his subscribers went up to like over 1 million. That's significant, man. I think
it's how the media portrays some of this stuff. Like some of these people, if the media didn't interview and give them so much attention, they wouldn't have the following that they have.
Yeah,
1 million
Richard
subscribers on
Spencer's
YouTube is nothing to really care about.
Oh, okay. Subscribers on YouTube. Got it.
No. I mean, his magazine or whatever has like some sort near 1.5 million or something. I can't remember the number.
Magazine?
But he went from like 15-20 grand to, over 1 million subscribers to his magazine.
And what was the thing that caused this, like the catalyst that caused the blow up in his subscribers?
I think just
when he got
the
whatever.
No, I don't think he associates with the Richard Spencer guy. And Jared Taylor doesn't get, as far as I can tell. Now, again, I'm not an expert on the guy. I've only watched a couple of videos on him. The media doesn't seem to give him the spotlight like Richard Spencer, because Richard Spencer is an idiot and can be disproven pretty easily, right?
Yeah, well, I
mean, that dude's got, what, 30,000 YouTube subscribers?
Yeah, American Renaissance, that's his organization. He has that's Taylor's organization, has 75,972 subscribers on YouTube. There's somebody that goes by name.
And he has a magazine that goes along with it.
Okay. There's an interview out there of Jared Taylor versus Tariq Nasheed, and they're both racist, but he gets Tariq does not come off well at all.
Oh man.
Well, he's arguing with the guy that graduated from Yale. I mean, whatever you say about the guy, that's why I say he's scary. Because he is intelligent and he's a fanatic. And those wrapped together are scary things, I think. But in any case, yeah, the catalyst, I think, was this whole culture war that we're in, or we have been in. Not something I'm participating in at all and won't ever participate in, but you have this left versus right thing going on. And I'm really talking about the super left and like the Trump supporters, and maybe even further right than that.
Well, you can see a lot of the Trump supporters are all that far right. They just didn't want Hillary. And they saw that they was going to have a couple of chances to put people on the Supreme Court, and they didn't want Hillary to do it.
No, I get that. And, I always take that into consideration when I think about people that I know that voted for Trump. Because I do know a few, and I think, well, how could you have? But they, that was the reason. They were not fans of Hillary, and they thought they were going to bring back jobs and whatever. So I'm not saying all of them feel this way, but you know that there's a good majority of these folks that are out there that are they're fanatics as well.
So I think on that we should move on to our next subject, which is security awareness, family edition. Ricky came up with this idea for the cast while he and I were talking last night. Just kind of go through the kind of a round table of different things that you educate your family on. So like your grandparents, your parents, and even like close and like brothers and sisters on when it comes to cybersecurity. And we kind of touched on that with our talk on password managers and stuff like that. But what are some other kind of things that you guys do to kind of aid in protecting your family members, whether on the internet or just in the cybersecurity realm?
Yeah, good topic. I think I mentioned to you the other night that, not only was the the target audience like your grandparents, which is important, but like even parents that aren't necessarily hip to cybersecurity, or are these good?
No, they're not.
Or more often than not, no. Like even cyberbullying is a big subject.
How do you protect kids and stuff?
Think about when most of us were young. If you were somebody that was bullied, unfortunately, you had to live through that. But the bullying generally stopped when school let out.
Well, or once you took them out back and you smacked them in the face 2 times and they were done.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Nowadays, campaigns exist online, and they get bullied their entire night or whatever.
So people, there is bullying campaigns out there, and the more problem with the internet is you can't reach out and pin slap someone. We needed also a lot of people who are claiming, "Oh, it's a harassment campaign against me." They say some hateful shit out there, and they get a bunch of hate back.
That is an excellent product idea. The Irongeek pimp slap.
The Irongeek pimp slap.
It's called pimp slap over IP.
Yes, if
pimp slap over
PSOPIP.
If you're going to be on this channel, whatever channel it is, on whatever Facebook or Reddit or whatever, if you offend somebody, they can pimp slap you, and you have a device that slaps you right in the face.
or for the low price of $5,500, somebody will show up live and in person and pimp slap the fuck out of them.
We'll do it for $19.95 plus shipping and handling. Shipping and handling.
No, it's it's
$200.
It's $5,000 for the retainer for my lawyer.
Yeah. So what we would do in some of our brown bag lunches was make that a specific subject, and a lot of parents would come down, and we would talk through ways to combat that. Talk about their child's usage of the internet, and all that good stuff. And there's even more. I mean, with your parents, making sure they changed, their default router name, change the default admin account, the default admin password, make sure that their settings are proper. Generally, they come with WPA2, out of the box. But if your parents or loved one, a grandparent might have older equipment.
Yep.
I mean, this is stuff that you would want to go over with them. And there's so much more. And I think it would be an interesting topic, maybe once a week, to throw out just some advice as far as awareness goes for those of us not in the cybersecurity space.
Yeah. And just a reminder, WPA3 is going to be coming out later this year. If you
Yes, sir.
can do it, upgrade it. The security is being enhanced exponentially. It's going to be a lot better than WPA2.
Yay!
Yes, but back to so taking it back though, what are some of the things that parents can help do if kids are being cyberbullied? Like what are some of those things that you guys talked about in those brown bag lunches?
I just muted myself because I was eating some pork rinds here.
Hey, real quick though, have you ever tried pork rinds with vinegar?
No.
It's amazing. Try it.
You ever try peanut butter with pickle slices?
No. Back to topic.
All right. That's amazing.
I'll try.
But no, I mean, generally make them aware of the problem was number one. So many of them came up afterwards and didn't realize their kids might be going through something like this.
Yeah.
There's not a one-size-fits-all option for it. But generally, we talked about, being able to monitor. And we're not talking about teenagers, right? We're talking about kids generally.
Yeah.
Young kids. We talk about monitoring their online access, whether or not they have a headset to Xbox or PS, their PlayStation. Yeah. And sometimes it comes across there. I know when my son was younger, I didn't allow him to have a headset, and we turned off all, unless he was with a private party and we knew the other kids, that he couldn't use a headset when he played games, because Xbox Live in particular is a goddamn cesspool.
Whoa. I take offense to that. In games, people talk trash. And
no, I'm fine with talking trash. But I won't say the name that I've been called on there. But anyway, making the parents aware of that, making them aware of social media accounts and alternative social media accounts. Yeah. We talked about agreements that they can set up with their child. And we talked about various tools that they can put in place to monitor their child's behavior online. I'm not talking about being Big Brother either. Again, this was focused on children for the most part.
Now, a lot of that is preventive.
It is. It is preventative.
So, and there's a lot of stuff that can be prevented, but not everything will be prevented at phishing.
No.
So,
look, in our industry, how many things are that cut and dry?
Yeah. Very few.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared to go into detail on this one, other than introduce the topic, but
my main
I'm certainly willing to go through it.
Yeah. So if they were bullied, and if they are being bullied, did you guys advise them taking it offline and talking to the subsequent parents of whoever's doing the bullying?
We did talk through that. Teachers, things like that.
Yeah.
And it was, and a lot of that focused on opening dialogue with your child. I wasn't bullied as a kid, but I know kids who were.
Yeah.
And they did not share that with their parent. That was something they kept hidden.
Yep.
Agreed. And a parent needs to figure out a way to be able to open up that conversation with the child. Yeah, and you can't do stuff like take it offline and talk to the other parents. But, all of us has been there when a kid narcs, especially to another kid's parents, things can get worse for them.
Yeah.
So you have to be cautious about that. There are
cautious and
programs. Yeah, sure. There are programs at school that help out with anti-bullying. And they can talk to guidance counselors and principals and whatnot. But that's generally what we went over is some of the preventative stuff, and then some of the more adaptive where you make sure that you would be surprised on how many parents don't communicate with their kids once they get to a certain age.
Yeah, I can see that.
The kid kind of does their thing, and the parents do that thing, especially in the age of screens, dude, where everybody's face down and they're focused on their own phone or iPad or Kindle or whatever.
Yeah.
So, we did talk a lot about that. So
nice.
And I can imagine that, like, especially if you're living in like a poorer, more dangerous neighborhood or something like that, the bullying issue is probably a bit more serious because there's more dangerous external things like going around, like more violence and stuff like that, I would imagine.
I mean, maybe. I would tend to think, though, that, I mean, granted, yes, you have it there, but even in the more well-off areas, you have more, especially on the cyberbullying side.
Okay.
Those kids probably have more access to the internet. The parents oftentimes are going to have more money. They work longer hours, if they have more money.
Sure.
And they're probably keeping up and watching the kids less.
Sure.
I mean, and I'm not downplaying that it's going to happen in a poorer area, but I think a poorer area is probably going to be more offline.
Okay. Yeah.
And a more affluent area is going to be more online.
No. That's not how it works at all. I mean, look,
you don't think so?
Regardless of social economic status,
yeah.
Kids can be cyberbullied for whatever reason. There was
absolutely.
There was one case that was brought to me from a client, and I won't, without going into specifics, there was a video of his daughter, knobbing a dude off, and everybody was calling her a whore online. So I mean.
Yeah, there's actually somebody, I think is a fairly famous thing that happened. It was like in Canada or something, or that's kind of like it's very common for that type of thing to happen. And yeah.
How many of you guys remember when 4chan went out and they made it their goal to take pictures of underage girls and post it on their school's Facebook page and shit like that?
Yeah.
Do you guys remember that? It doesn't seem that long ago, but I'm sure it was like 7 or 8 years. But I mean, think of the hell that they wrecked in these kids' lives.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how you help with that situation, Jack. It seems almost unwinnable. Like how do you get past that?
You can prosecute those kids that did do that.
Yes, because
but not the kids that are making fun of her for being
because
a whore.
He was 19 and she was 14.
Wow.
And it took everything in my power just to say, fuck it. You need to call the cops and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Well, there was a little off, but similar topic. There was just a 17-year-old black male. His girlfriend is white and 16. I don't remember what state, but he was arrested for man, what was he arrested for? But she sent him, naked pics.
Oh, sexting? That's sexting law?
Yeah. And I don't remember what state it was in, but yeah, he's 17 and she's 16, and he got arrested for sexting.
That's crazy. I don't know if I don't agree with that personally. I mean, they're in a relationship, Yeah, she's
and
16, but he's 17.
Exactly. Yeah, and they were boyfriend girlfriend.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Like the rules
that typically
right?
comes down to the parents. If the parents catch them doing it, then they're going to report it.
Yeah.
Because they're Now,
granted, I don't agree with them sexting, but still, I don't agree with him getting arrested.
Yeah.
And being given a sex offender
it's-
charge for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and I think they're arresting him as an adult, as a 17-year-old,
Yes.
and yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. Well, they
Well, I think they were
gotta
calling it,
prosecute
like,
him
they
for generating and distributing child pornography to protect
that's what I was gonna
himself
say,
from yeah.
Yep.
Gotta protect himself from the dangers of sexting by making sure he's not gonna be able to get many jobs the rest of his life.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. He needs to get a good attorney. What was OJ's attorney? He needs to get him.
Oh, his attorney dead.
What? Really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that dude is
Johnny
dead.
Depp's dead.
Oh.
Both of them are, right? Kardashian and yeah, both of them, I think.
Cockrum or something?
I don't know. I forget Kardashian's first name, but it's Kim Kardashian's father, which is what helped make her famous.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, so this sounds like the subject it seems like a lot of us are interested in. So cool.
Cool.
And there's a lot of resources out there for anyone listening. We can provide those. Sands has a pretty cool newsletter once a month called Ouch. Sometimes they're a little more technical. You probably wouldn't want to send it to grandma, but it's good for people that are at least technically literate.
Yeah. Kenya Watson just said Johnny Cochran. That's what it was. Sorry. OJ's other lawyer.
Well, I think in the thought of time here, let's move on to the next topic.
So yeah, we don't have to discuss this thoroughly. I threw this on in here. Iranian hackers. Oh, actually, I didn't realize it was Iranian. But yeah, Iranian hackers target universities in a large attack campaign. Dell Secure Works came up with this one, and they targeted universities globally. Phishing campaigns. They made custom login pages for 76 universities in 14 countries, including Australia, Canada, China, Israel, Japan, Switzerland, Turkey, and the UK and the US. And I mean, this was very, very well coordinated. I mean, it was from a red team perspective, but yeah. The domains were registered between May and August 2018. Most recent, August 19th. So it's still active. They haven't been taken out yet or nothing, but it's a pretty cool little read. And again, just for anybody watching, show notes are down near Adrian's picture, bird picture, on YouTube here under show notes, and just click on that and you can see what we're talking about.
Yep. Observer campaign associated with Iron Link.
Or what we're not talking about.
Yes.
Yeah. But
or what we're getting sidetracked from.
Yeah.
And then throw up there real quick. The DNC is being hacked. Well, no, they're not. And this was from a week and a half ago. And I missed last week, so I don't think anybody talked about it on the show last week. But the Democratic National Committee said that they were being hacked and all this stuff, and no, they weren't. They thought people were trying to target them, and it ended up being who was it? Because this was just stupid weird. It's like a Michigan Democratic Party hired. Who was it that they hired?
It wasn't CrowdStrike.
No.
I thought they all would use them.
Cyber GRX.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hired Cyber GRX to do red team against, essentially a vulnerability assessment against the main organization for whatever reason. I mean, apparently there's just no communication between like the major and the minor.
I just now picked up what you were saying. I thought you were saying they hired this red team group to come in and do incident response.
No,
then I realized, you're talking about
assessment.
Them hiring firm.
Yeah.
Doing an assessment.
Yeah.
And no communication caused them to believe that they were being hacked.
Yeah. But we saw on the news, on all the different news outlets, that DNC, they discovered a hacking attempt, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, it wasn't. But
kind of.
Retrospect. I mean, yes, it was, but it was by one of their own, child organizations, as Active Directory would say. So, I mean, it's like, I think we talked about a month ago or so, whenever the
F crap, nice.
Yes.
This is our not a government wing, but this is a primary government party in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And we have
Jesus fucking Christ, the casserole of nonsense.
I like that expression.
I mean, it's similar. We had who's over the SEC? Yeah, the SEC. Was it the SEC that were claiming they were being DDoS?
Yeah, it was the FCC.
FCC.
Yeah, FCC.
Yeah. It was the FCC that were claiming that they were being DDoSed when I believe it was around the vote for net neutrality.
Yeah, for net neutrality.
But
yes.
it was they were just getting so many people, like legitimate people, calling, messaging in or to complain about it, that their systems were were overloaded,
and everybody knew that.
Yeah. And they went like full scale, claiming to all the news outlets, we're getting DDoSed.
And it was bots and whatever, and it turns out that, hey,
it's the Russians.
That's not the case.
It's always the Russians.
And after all this, it was this report was like kind of sort of released underneath the table to say, hey, look, these were pissed off individuals, and yet you still fucked them over.
Yeah. Consistent. Just absurd.
Consistently pissing people off since whenever the FCC was founded.
Yes. So yeah, I wanted to add that on there just so if anybody, hey, if you remember the DNC being hacked in 2018, yeah, they weren't.
and then the first casualty in the net neutrality war, Verizon cranking up, charging the fuck out of their customers who happen to be first responders that's dealing with the California wildfires.
I did see that. Yes.
Yeah.
Man, that was such crap. Yeah, because they still had data, but it got dropped down to what, like 100K or
something unusable,
stupid low. Yeah, absurd. Okay, next up we got Lerna updates its license to ban known collaborators with ICE, such as Microsoft.
Yeah, apparently one of the guys who develops it, I'll bring up my screen. Let me see.
Oh, I will close off my screen share then.
Oh, actually, okay, I'll do it. Let's see. Send to everyone. I found out this via Adam Morgan tweet. Apparently, Luna updates its license to ban known collaborators with ICE, such as Microsoft. Lerna is hosted on GitHub, but Microsoft owns GitHub. It's not a truly open source license, I suppose, if you're making those sorts of restrictions. I'm still a little bit curious about the people who really want to ban ICE. We form various practices I can get, but I get the impression that the people who want to completely get rid of ICE want completely open borders.
Real quick for anybody like me, who is Lerna? Because I'm not familiar with
Lerna
that.
is some tool for crap. I don't even understand what it's used for.
Let me look.
Oh, so they're a nobody trying to make a name.
Sure.
It's virtue signaling. That's what it is.
You don't say. In other words,
A tool for managing JavaScript projects with multiple packages. Okay, Node exists.
Nice.
Freaking everyone wants to have their own freaking JavaScript dependency manager.
No. I think it would be a cool little show thing to go through marketing slicks each week and just laugh at the way companies try to express who and what they are.
If you guys really want me to go on the JavaScript is terrible rant, I will one day.
I will
be right there with you.
100%.
Hey, I like Adrian's comment. Stop, collaborate, and listen.
Oh yeah, Vanilla Ice.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole ICE thing, yeah, that I was scratching my head at that one too, and I get the reform of ICE.
But also the funny thing is, a lot of this shit was happening way before Trump was elected, but no one gave a shit until Trump was the person in charge.
Yes.
Right. And now they're flagellating themselves and saying, you know, we should. Did I fuck up and use the wrong word?
No, Adrian showing his comment of stop, collaborate, and listen.
And Vanilla Ice.
That's Vanilla Ice. I was forgetting who that was. But
I heard he was going to be at DerbyCon.
You are banned. You are no longer allowed on this cast. You don't know Vanilla Ice.
I've been to a party at his house.
What?
Yeah, he lives in like Port St. Lucie.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he's got a house on Palm Beach too. I went to a party at his house when I was like 22 or so.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh.
Was he performing?
Vanilla Ice, and you thought that was cool?
Ice. Hey.
Well, my other story about Vanilla Ice is the fact that I saw this guy in like this neon-colored Lambo pull up and at like a TGI Fridays, and I was like, oh man, that guy parked like an ass. And then Vanilla Ice gets out, and I'm like, well.
I have one celebrity story, and it's not really a big one. I went to high school with one of the. You guys should know. You guys should know the Cleveland Rappers, East 1999. Do you guys know who I'm talking about?
Are they called the Cleveland Rappers?
Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Oh, come on. Bone Thugs and Harmony.
Oh, yeah, I know Bone Thugs.
East 1999. So I went to high school with one of the guys in the group. And when they came out with their first single, they filmed in our neighborhood, and Eazy-E came rolling through with all of them. Now they weren't famous at the time, but I knew who fucking Eazy-E was.
Yeah.
And like in the video, I didn't make it in there, but you can see one of my friends standing on top of a car and shit. That was cool.
Yeah.
That's my very minor celebrity fucking story. That's all I got.
My close to celebrity story was Wendy's founder Dave Thomas. Apparently, everybody I used to.
He was a pedophile racist.
Well, I didn't know that.
Gosh.
But,
no, I'm kidding. I don't know. I'm sorry,
but he was having.
This is live. I was bullshitting.
Yes. I used to work at a country club, and he was a member there. And they always had a Christmas dinner. and no other server there wanted to serve him because he was very well known apparently as being, just very harsh and cruel to the servers. So I had no idea, and I said, I'll serve him. And so I served him. I did not have that experience at all. And at the end of the night, he left me $100 tip.
Nice.
Oh, and he tried to hook me up with his granddaughter because Wendy, actual daughter, was there, and her daughter was. I mean, I was like 20 at the time, and her daughter was probably 17 or 18. But he was, throughout the night, kept saying his granddaughter's name. And isn't Israel a nice guy? And hey, you should find a guy that's similar to Israel. But I mean, for me,
he's Jewish, don't you know? And you know how them Jews are.
Yeah,
yeah,
they have a lot of money, and they're very thrifty, and they'll screw you out of everything you have.
I mean, like that would have really surprised. I mean, from what I know, and again, I don't know a shitload about him.
Yeah.
But I thought he was like super big into charity, and he was super nice to his employees. That's like the reputation that I heard.
And see, I didn't experience any of the negative stuff. That was just what people said who were around me. So. That I only have the hearsay to go off of, but from my own personal experience, he was freaking awesome. I mean, granted, I'm the best waiter in the world.
And you're not bad looking either.
Self-proclaimed. Yes, and Fabio is almost as good looking as me.
Just about.
Yeah. But yeah, I had a really great.
You're not sore in the eyes, so. Oh boy!
On that bombshell, let's move from the DNC to a proposed O-Day.
Hey, we're working on 3 hours now.
Yeah, try to keep us moving along here.
Okay, so where
Sandbox Escaper.
DNC Luna. Oh yeah, so Twitter handle Sandbox Escaper, which honestly. Sandbox Escaper, like, you need to give us a call because it sounds like you need to talk a little bit. But you did drop a pretty sweet 0 day, and you decided to drop it on GitHub. And this is a 0 day for Win 10. And it works.
And that is the upside and downside.
Yes.
So what is this O-Day? Like, does it just give complete system access to the box? Okay.
Yes.
Call it O-Day.
It takes you
severity
from nothing to system.
Didn't it have something to do with the printer or something like that? I thought.
I
might be thinking about something else.
So this one is a task scheduler, if I remember right. And yeah, I mean. 0 day, you get full admin rights to the box. You pwn the box. You have whatever time you want to have with the box. It is a true, very beautiful 0 day.
Nice.
Chrome won't let me download it.
What would be interesting is to be able to test it against tools like CrowdStrike and Cylance and Cyber Reason and
you can test anything you want against
like
Silence and it won't deliver shit. I'm sorry. Did I say that?
Silence?
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of Silence either.
No, I'm not a fan.
I wasn't. My beef with them is they didn't have at the time any forensics capability. So it was like if you needed an upgraded antivirus, anti-malware tool, and you didn't have a security team, give it to your sysadmins and let them run with it. But if you had a security team and you need to do more investigation, like how did this threat get into our company? Where did it start?
Yeah.
Is there any more like that out there?
Yep.
So they developed something called optics, I believe.
Yeah.
And unlike CrowdStrike, instead of packaging it with their EDR toolset, they decided to double the cost of the license to get their forensics piece. So it was like, nah, fuck you guys. And of course we tested every single one of them. Sentinel-1 was bullshit. It didn't work half the time. Carbon Black was okay, but they still had
the setup is
how many different product lines
Yeah.
that they weren't bringing together and didn't really have a plan to bring them together. So I'm not a big fan of Cylance either. But I think it could do a job. I think they've got a home license. It's fairly expensive, but I would put it on my parents' computer.
I would not. Last time I heard, Cylance still only updated their, I forget the proper terminology, but updated their backend algorithm once a year because it was so expensive for them. They run it on AWS, or they run it on Amazon.
Yeah.
And it takes them a week to update the neural network, so to speak. And it costs them so much money, they can only afford to do it one time a year. I mean, they may do it more now, but after they get it, words are fleeting. But once they get it to the proper point for the neural network,
right.
Everything's pretty good.
We had some connection into some of the data science, the big data science schools.
Yeah.
And Cylance was going in there and offering people the moon if they were halfway decent. They were buying up all the data scientists. It was pretty crazy.
Yes, it is.
This is when they first came out. Do you remember when they had the big argument with Semantic and
McAfee?
McAfee maybe, and it went public, and they were arguing with each other on their various web pages.
Oh no, I didn't see that one.
That was like 4 years ago, dude. They're like Cylance CEO versus like Semantic CEO and McAfee CEO. Dude, it was like super public. Like they were legitimately arguing with each other on like blogs on their public web pages. It was the most curious thing. It was like,
nice.
You guys do know your actual businesses, right? Like your companies, you don't do shit this way.
Yeah. I mean, because
and the whole argument was Cylance had this thing that they did called the Roadshow, in which they would take their product around and go to various companies or conferences and whatever and set up and test the Cylance product against any commerce. If a company had Semantic, they'd test against that. McAfee, they'd test against that. The problem was, as I remember it, Cylance was tuning up their product. So they were turning on some of the more advanced protection.
Yes.
And turning off Semantic and McAfee's advanced protection. It might have actually been Sophos. I can't remember exactly yet.
100% called them out because Cylance said they could do all the stuff offline. And McAfee proved 100% that to do the type of scans and lookups they were doing, they had to connect online and go to the, a larger scale database to be able to do a lot of the stuff they were doing.
That was another big one. Good reference there. The fight with Virus Total.
Yes.
Where Virus Total finally said, okay, enough.
Yep.
You're not using our services anymore unless you pay for it.
No, it wasn't even if they paid for it. It was that if they contribute to it.
Yes, it was contributing. You're right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they wouldn't contribute. Like, screw you. And to anybody listening, I have issues with companies who advertise in airports. Nearly exclusively.
Huh.
So, any company who's only going after your CEO, I have an issue with that. And not going after the tech guys and the people who know, like, actual security and are doing in the trenches doing the stuff. If they are only going to your CEO, I have an issue.
Yeah. Yep. I'm with you, man. I don't know if anybody outside of us cared about that, but whatever. Fuck all y'all.
It's a good talk for the listeners.
Yeah, 3D printers.
Yep, 3D printers in the wild. Exposed in the wild. Sorry.
This isn't where the big fear was they were printing 3D guns.
How many exposed 3D printers have printed up penises yet? Because this is
that's what I was
kind of like a rite of. It's a rite of passage. It's a rite of passage to putting something on the internet.
At least Weave hasn't got to him yet.
No, I actually have a 3D printed thing story. I had my best friend 3D print a like a 6-inch tall dick butt. I spray painted it gold and shipped it to one of my friends for Christmas.
Nice. Hey,
you know how Jason going around scanning people's faces and making steps? Well, Ill Will took those and put them on the ends of butt plugs.
Oh. Wait, what? Sorry, what did he do?
Yeah.
He took the scans and added them on the ends of butt plugs.
Yeah, I think I saw one of those.
I own one. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can find it.
Oh, you own one?
Oh, you own one.
Of course you do.
Okay, you got some explaining to do.
Yeah.
So, Velvet, the one, is the guy in question.
So before we
where that's been.
So before we get to see the disgust that is what Adrian's about to go grab, does anyone have a summary of this? Otherwise, I will just read it off real quick.
I'd say read it off real quick.
All right, I'm going to read this off real quick. So from dshield.org, they had a reader report in that over 3,000 plus exposed Octoprint 3D print web interfaces were exposed to the internet. By default, it binds to port 5000, and the access controls do not seem to have much in the way of restricting access except by the user. If you have one of these running, do yourself a favor and check for internet-facing exposure. This way, your printer will basically be open to the public internet. So if someone were to say, I don't know, start printing some weird job, it could also be a foothold for people to get into your network just in general.
Okay, I'm now imagining the 3D printer version of a black fax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those listening, you don't know, a black fax was you faxed someone a page that used up all the ink on the fax machine.
Yeah.
It was the page was all black.
Me and my cousin back in the AOL days, I had NetZero, he had AOL, but we did that so many times.
Yeah, and you could do that on faxes too. Yeah.
Wait, Adrian, was that a butt plug with somebody's face on it that you were just showing?
Yes.
Whose face?
Adrian hasn't. He has that
yours.
Ill Will gave it to me. The idea of the scan of the face was originally put him on chess pieces. That's what Jason was doing.
Yeah, Jason does that.
Ill Will took them and put them on the ends of
Nice.
Whose face is that?
Yeah, whose face is it?
Boris is Velvet.
Oh, it's Boris's?
Yes.
That's funny.
That's fun.
Hey,
Yeah.
by the
McMurray
way,
tonight was going around with a little Boris 3D printed upper half to the casino.
Nice.
Before we hopped on the cast, Aoi was going to take care of something personal. Does anybody know if he was able to do that? And if everything's cool? I don't know if anybody's close to him, so.
Do not.
I have not heard from him since then. Guess I can try texting him in a little bit.
Yeah, I would say that for the post.
Yeah, let's go offline on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just curious.
Yeah. With that, I think we're through the show notes, and we are also over our normal time of about 3 hours. We've gone about 20 minutes over. We do have some further reading. Israel, if you want to take that over.
Yeah. So further reading, I threw on there fileless malware. Malwarebytes is starting to post. It looks like a series of posts in regard to fileless malware. The first post here is pretty decent little post, and hopefully we see some continuations in the upcoming weeks, and we'll also post those. Say it again.
How is that new?
It's not new. It's just further reading. It's interesting. Okay. Yeah, interesting topics to look at. Not necessarily discuss, but things that at least interest me. If you guys have things that interest you that we don't necessarily want to discuss, go ahead and throw it into further reading.
Nope.
And just stuff we include on the notes.
For defenders.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, I didn't know if they were presenting it as a new thing, and I'm like,
no,
I've used that a ton of times for the last 3 or 4 years. So
yeah, and he even, I think it's a he, went and even briefly talked about one of the first fileless malwares that he encountered like 15 years ago. I mean, so
we've been around a while.
Yeah. So it was a pretty cool little read, and there's a couple others on here. GPG, which I didn't add any of these. I don't know if these were further reading.
No, yeah, those were things that I added. I was going to talk about it in previous week. GPG. So I brought up Tutanota and Proton Mail a few weeks ago.
Yes.
As like good ways to like have like encrypted communications and stuff like that, like emails. Unfortunately, I was learning about it at the same time that I was talking about it. Unfortunately, Tutanota and Proton Mail both do the encryption in a web server. They don't have like a standalone client on on your computer. So this is like I would recommend like not using those. Not that I wouldn't recommend, but I would recommend more using GPG. And like I guess you could write your email or whatever communication you want to have in like a command line or a terminal. And if you really want to get serious, so yeah, I would recommend, and that's like some documentation on it.
Cool.
And then
I use both.
Okay, nice. And then this is just like some stuff about like international decryption laws, and it might be like a bit of a bit of stuff to talk about. I guess we could just talk about it another week or something. And then the last thing is BetterNet is a free VPN, and it actually comes with like a .dmg and stuff like that. I think you can use it on Windows as well. So it's easy to install. And then also there's a lot of kill switches, which is basically if you're connected to the internet via one IP address, and say that's the VPN's IP address, and then you disconnect from the VPN, a lot of times you'll like typically stay connected to the internet. So everything that you were doing, like the websites you were connected to, will be like exposed. But this allows you to, if you're connected to the VPN and then your connection drops, then your connection to the internet will drop. You won't there will be no leaking.
You say it's
Sorry,
it's a free VPN. How is it funded?
I think it has advertisements. I mean, it's not like a
Are you? Wait, whoa! Are you English? Did you just say advertisements?
He did say advertisements, but he's been living in Europe for 25 years, so.
So I'm always to run something like that. It can't just be advertisements on their webpage. It wouldn't make nearly enough money.
Okay.
So when inspecting VPN, that's one of the most important things if you want to see, is this something that's likely to scam me or not? Find out how they're funded to make sure that find out if or how or if they're monetizing you.
Sure.
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to their page right now, and yeah, it's definitely.
And take them through the grades, right? There is a pretty good resource out there to grade various internet services, and they include things like, where are they located? Where do they terminate?
Yes, the VPN analysis tries to.
Yeah.
This is the technical and legal aspects of each VPN provider.
Right, and I mean, I'm sure this thing, this might not be on there, but if it's something that you want, your parents don't want to pay for a VPN service, it might be an option. I don't know. Without looking at it, I obviously can't recommend it. So
yeah, this isn't like the end all be all of VPNs. I'm sure I know that there's better VPNs out there, that have more privacy, are in different countries that would make it more difficult to like get the data from those and so on. But it's just like it's a free, simple way to have another layer of privacy.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I would see that as useful in circumventing a ban on 4chan, but beyond that, I would.
Hey, you know what? It's one of those. He's providing additional reading for people, and we can do some homework on it and see if it's what it's cracked up to be. So
okay. I mean, there are some free VPN services that have alternative funding mechanisms and are fine. But that's just got to find that out.
Sure, yeah. All right. Thanks, Liz.
Mm-hmm. I didn't mean to shut you down. Yeah. It's just, sorry. I mean, I didn't know of any really nice way to really put that. It's just alarm bells ring in my mind when I see free VPN, as I always see, okay, are they injecting ads into the clickstream? Are they selling the data on third-party services for analytics and other stuff?
Are you crypto mining?
I'm on their page right now, and it's saying so. There's a link on their page, and it says, "How is it free?" And it says so. There's like two things. It's saying by offering free sponsored ads. When you install the app, when you click on the button, you're offered the apps for installation. For each app installed, BetterNet makes money from app publishers, and then by clicking on the watch a video. So it seems like it's like ads, but yeah.
So that's the devil is in the details there. Ads where? Are they injecting ads into your clickstream?
Okay.
Are they hijacking your internet traffic to put ads in there?
I understand. Gotcha.
Right. Yeah. But definitely one cool thing. Greg had the kill switch on here.
Oh yeah, that's kill switch.
Yeah, and that GitHub that's a pretty cool one, because if the VPN drops,
if you only using cubes.
So yeah, that one's definitely very cool.
If you're only using cubes and you have a good setup, you cretins.
Takes one to know one, buddy.
There you go.
Yeah, that's funny.
So yeah, that's all I got for those topics.
Good show, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, we can shut this down and we can continue on speaking for a little bit afterwards.
Okay.